Sorry. Hold on. Okay. Sorry if you guys got a live alert and then you clicked the live and it said I wasn't live. It's because I went live on Twitch, but it didn't go live on YouTube for some reason because like the window was gone, and so I fixed it. It's fine. It was sorted. So sorry about that. But yeah, hi. Sorry I look a mess. I was getting errands done and I went and got a facial because I'm a girl and I'm on camera a lot and I'm traveling. I go like once a month. Let's look at what they had been. Thank you. My hair's a mess. So I also do have to dye my roots tonight. My roots are crazy. So I will be doing that. I thought about doing that before I went live, and then I was like, no, because then if I shower and then put my gym gems on afterwards, like I'm not going to want to go live. So I was like, let me go live first and then I'll do all of my hair dye shenanigans. So new lore unlocked, please. This is what I use. I really only wear these when I am washing my face, or I go and get a facial and because they put a headband on me because I have bangs. So they do it to keep your hair out of the way so they can like attack your skin. Also, we do have more cheese balls. It's actually alarming how quickly I'm going through this jug of cheese balls, but you know what? It's fine. It is a fictional snail, not you clocking my tea. Oh, Sunny got first. Damn. God, my roots are growing in like crazy. It's always funny because I feel like I can go so long between dye jobs for myself, but then it's like one day I notice it and then I can never unsee it. Like it gets really bad really quickly. So that's why I'm dyeing it now, because it should be good. Okay, first thing up. ABC, or Disney specifically. Disney has pulled The Bachelorette. The Bachelorette will not be airing this Sunday. Taylor Frankie Paul's season has officially been pulled. Why? Because of a video that the contents of was always just like this. Okay, we're gonna need some nuance. I need patience from everyone. I need patience from everyone. We have nuance, okay? She never should have been the Bachelorette, okay? Never should have been the Bachelorette, okay? Because she has a history of domestic violence. Now, I understand that there are people that are like, this looks like Darvo, this looks like reactive abuse. I hear you. I don't disagree. But it sets a precedent, okay, in the context of reality television, okay? Other shit has been pulled for less, okay? And again, this video is from 2023. This is from her initial arrest, which then got her to continue to go back. Because again, if you guys don't remember the timeline for the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, okay? They were filming for this show, and then this arrest happened in 2023, okay? This video is partially why she went to jail and Dakota did not, okay? This is partially why she has a charge and she was on probation in the first season of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, okay? What happened prior to this? I'm sure he did hit her. I don't doubt it, okay? But it doesn't change the fact that she threw multiple chairs at him with her daughter in the room, okay? And then had a kid with him. I have little patience for these types of people. I'm so sorry. I really do. I really do. As a child of an abusive mom, and I'm not going to sit here and say that Taylor has ever actively caused harm to her children. It's not what I'm saying. But there's shit that is avoidable. And there's shit that you don't need to put yourself through or your kids through. And I have very little tolerance for it, especially when you are a public fucking figure and your kid is already dealing with the reality of that. Okay. So this video is the information that happens in this video, ABC had fucking access to. But now that it's public information, now they've lost control of the fans. Now they are pulling her. She never should have been the Bachelorette. She never should have been the Bachelorette, okay? Because, again, I think this girl needs help. I also think Dakota's a fucking psycho, okay? I think that everyone around them is a shithead for allowing these two to continue to go at each other when there's children involved. Because there's children involved. Because every time that there has been you need to get away from Dakota, to Taylor, to anyone, someone in her life is like, okay, but like, that's Ever's father. Yeah, she never, after that arrest, we're gonna pull you away from him physically. Like, and then even then, the amount of interviews that I've now heard of Taylor talking about this clip, she doesn't get it still. There's no accountability whatsoever. She speaks about everything as if it's happened to her. Like, you did throw a chair at someone. Multiple chairs. Multiple. I'm not playing this video because, again, there's a child in the screen on camera. They're blurred out, but still. Like, multiple things can be true. Dakota can be a piece of shit, and Taylor needs serious fucking help. Multiple things can be true. She's never been on reality television. This was a joke from the jump. They know these people know everything about Taylor. ABC is the ones who put on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. They made the choice to offer her Bachelorette despite knowing how she is, because they have 4 fucking seasons of evidence to show you how she is. This including, apparently, in the previous season finale, allegedly, there were accusations made by both Taylor and Dakota of them both being physical with each other, and it was apparently pulled from the finale. So again, you knew, and you were fine with that when no one knew. Which again, psychotic, insane, crazy. No, explain. This information is in her publicly available record. The allegations of her throwing the chair, that's why she went to fucking. It's just insane because it's like, I feel the only people I feel bad for is I do feel bad for the guys on her season. I do, okay? I do feel bad for the production and the crew, okay? Because so many of the crew for post-production is now gonna have to be laid off because this show isn't airing. And I do feel bad for that, okay? Do I feel bad for ABC and Disney? No, go fuck yourselves. Like, you did this. This is fucking absurd. So, it's just, everything is insane. Everything is insane. And now, and again, Dakota has had this video since 2023 and chose to release it now. And I'm assuming it's because she is currently engaged. My guess is that the rumor is that she did get engaged to one of the guys from her season. Frankly, apparently it was the dude that I was like, oh, he's hot. Apparently that's who she's engaged to. So I clocked that. I'm psychic. But, so there's that. So that's why he released this now, because he wants her back and he wants her to be This is shithead behavior. I'm not denying that. The video fucked up. He's also a piece of shit. That'd be fun. I agree. We need to buy Bachelorette. I'm shocked we haven't had like a gender blind casting for a Bachelor or Bachelorette yet, but that's just me. It's on the show. The new stuff is that apparently she saw him at some point after the filming of The Bachelorette. They had an argument. She left his home, went back again the next day. Apparently cops have been called at one point. And again, she's engaged to someone else, which is now why supposedly Dakota is filing for full custody. These people are psychotic, frankly. And in this season 4, it drove me fucking insane. Because if I was married to a man and I was on a show, there was a show that I was on with a bunch of TikTok friends. Like, I would never, this show is insane. But if I was any of these women and I found out that my husband was inviting my friend's ex, baby daddy, who she has a tumultuous relationship with, if I found out that he was inviting him around when she's with us, You're sleeping on the fucking couch or I'm leaving you because what the fuck is wrong? No, get out. Leave. Every single one of those girls should have been like, get out now. You're not doing this. You need to leave now. You're not welcome here. You're not dating any of us. You're not married to any of us. You need to get the fuck out now. And if any of you want to keep him around, you can leave too, is exactly what should have fucking happened. Okay? Because guess who was paying for all their fucking rentals? The women. Fuck off. Okay? Sorry, I'm getting angry. But this whole, I finished the season yesterday. And I was just like baffled because they just kind of kept acting like, uh-oh, Dakota's here. What are we going to do? Taylor's going to freak out. No, protect your fucking friend if you're friends and get him the fuck out of there. What are we talking about? Again, the allegations, they keep calling it domestic violence allegations. This is video from the thing that she already went to and was on probation for. Okay? So again, they shouldn't be shocked that this is coming out. They're just upset that people are like, holy shit, this is bad, you know? Yeah, dude, I could fucking hate Taylor and be like, dude, why the fuck you're so fucking weird for being here. I'm friends with these people. Go somewhere else then. Fuck off. Go get your own Airbnb. Leave. You know you're traumatizing her. You know you're upsetting her. You know you two are gonna fight. Leave. I love her. I don't really give a fuck if you love her, bro. Get the fuck out. Go. And it was because it was production. Production was fucking bringing them around. These people are all psychotic. This is so fucked up. Like, it's insane. Might be a Scorpio thing. ESP. Oh, me guessing. Thank you, Mom the Girl, for subscribing. Was it me yelling? You know, I just it's just like, this was predictable. Who could have assumed this would happen? Literally everyone. You wanted this to happen. Maybe not this. You knew she would be a train wreck of a bachelorette, which is why you had her be the bachelorette, because you know she's reality TV gold. This is not new information. Like, And again, the thing that drives me insane, okay? And again, another reason why I would not be friends with Taylor, ever, okay? Is because all of this happened in 2023. She went to jail, could have lost her children, and then she still had a baby with this fucking guy. This could have been, like, after that, Dakota never should have been around. I should have never heard the name fucking Dakota again in my life, okay? But no, she kept going back to him. And this is what drives me insane. Now, when she got pregnant and she tried to leave him again, her parents pushed her to him again. Oh, well, you guys are gonna have a baby, you know? And then they got separated and they're back, and it drives me insane. No, she was not pregnant. So it's speculated she had thought she was pregnant, but she had miscarried. And then she was not pregnant at the time of this. And then she was 5 or 6 months pregnant once they had started filming again. And she still had 3 months of probation left when they started filming again. So I think she got pregnant after all of that. She was not pregnant when all of this went down. Yeah. She got back together with him, and they've regularly talked about how she just doesn't use condoms. She has no forms of birth control. She's not on birth control. This is just her being reckless. Thank you for following. And again, I really try to not be a judgy bitch, but sometimes it's really easy to be a judgy bitch, okay? It really is. I try to get off my high horse, but my fucking God. And again, there's children involved. She already had children involved, okay? No, I agree. Dakota's a psycho. Dakota is also an addict, I'm not not defending a fucking man, but I'm also not gonna let Taylor just blame. Taylor, the problem here is Taylor is not taking responsibility for fucking anything. Ever. Even in her interviews now, she's like, every opportunity has been ruined for me. It's like, okay, well, you also have actions involved here. We can acknowledge Dakota's a psycho and is also probably abusive. We can acknowledge that. And we can also acknowledge that you also keep going back to him. The night before leaving for the Bachelorette, she fucked him. They slept together. Before leaving for the Bachelorette for her to go date 30 men. There are ways to co-parent without fucking your baby daddy. I'm so sorry. There is. Literally. So So yeah, so that's that. That was the main thing because I literally got out of my appointment and I saw that. Jillian Anderson, who was a Bachelor contestant. As a former Bachelor contestant, I can tell you that ABC thoroughly vets every part of your personal history. Given that Taylor Frankie Paul, already had a public profile, it's hard to believe they didn't know exactly who she was before going into the season. Apparently, Nick Viall claims that he pushed them into hiring her for The Bachelorette. They knew who she was. She works with them. So it's just, everything is horrible. There's drama in Aston, afoot at the house of Aston Martin. Okay. I woke up to post from Autosport claiming that Adrian Newey was stepping down and that they were looking at Jonathan Wheatley to replace him. Jonathan Wheatley, who is currently the team principal, the team boss at Audi, who's doing pretty decent compared to Aston Martin. So I was like, what the fuck is happening? And then now later, Planet F1 posted a statement from Adrian Newey saying that they will not be communicating on speculation and that Adrian Newey is still team principal. So I don't know what the fuck is going on at Aston Martin, but they need to get their house in order. TMZ, and it was 100% sold to them by Dakota, in my opinion. Thank you for following. Hula hoo. To write off this year, or are they going to use this for it? No, they did not need a write. Do you know how much fucking a write-off of a minimum $2 million? No, that's not what this is. Their ratings have been dog shit. They didn't need a write-off. Write-offs happen, I think, far less than people seem to think. Okay, especially on a show like The Bachelor. Okay, they'll can a movie that hasn't been 2 days from release. You don't do a tax poll 2 days before release. You don't do that. Okay, let's be realistic. They thought they were going to air this show. The promo tour she's on, they thought they were airing this. They thought this was going to be reality TV gold because the Bachelor franchise ratings have been going down for a while. They thought that they were going to go full in on the drama views of it all, okay? And they thought that's what this would be. And instead, they got exactly what they signed up for. Barbra Streisand and not Barbra Streisand. You spelled it the exact same way. Oh, Barbara. Oh, you just... Barbara? Barbara? It's Barbara. There was one to doctor said she didn't say ghetto growing up and she didn't know how else to describe her. Yeah, I saw that video. She said her and her mom said we don't use the word ghetto or ratchet because of the racial connotations for it. And she was like, but I don't know how else to describe Taylor Frankie Paul. Mm-hmm. So, no idea what's happening at Aston Martin, but let me see if there's any updates. Sorry, tens of millions they're losing. If the season never airs, they will lose tens of millions of dollars. Oscar's photo dump just says 2 weeks of watching F1 because he hasn't been driving. Can I get a short overview? So, The Bachelorette. They announced last year they were casting Taylor Frankie Paul as The Bachelorette. Taylor Frankie Paul is the lead main person on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. She is a train wreck. She has been a train wreck the entire time. She is a TikToker who got famous in part because of the swinger scandal. She was already like famous in the Utah mom space and the Mormon mom space for Mom Talk. And then they came into them. That's how I became aware of them, was the swinging scandal. Then they got a show because of that swinging scandal. And then the first episode of that show ends with this assault that's being discussed now. Okay? That episode ends. They started filming that first season. And then Taylor got arrested for domestic violence with her now ex, but also at the time boyfriend Dakota. Okay? While her children were home. I think they were both drinking or she was drunk. I'm not certain. She said that he had hit her, but she did throw chairs at him. Like, there's record of all this. She was arrested for domestic violence and got parole. Okay? Took a plea deal or something. Got parole. Then they tried to continue filming without her, and they realized there's no way we can do the show without her. So the rest of the first season is her like 7-8 months later, 6 months pregnant, okay, from Dakota. So after she had been arrested, she got back with Dakota, or was never broken up with Dakota, and got pregnant and kept the child. And now Ever is 2 years old. Okay, Ever is their child. Ever True, I think, is the name of their son. And so then last year she was announced as the Bachelorette. Okay. Never should have been cast as the Bachelorette, but they wanted the drama because she is a train wreck on television. I want to make it clear, she has been a train wreck every single season of the show. Dakota hasn't been involved in every single season of this show, okay? Their relationship has always been extremely tumultuous. Every person around her has not helped this girl whatsoever. Someone should have 51-50'd her. Frankly, I don't know what else we could have done at this point, okay? So, goes on The Bachelorette. She is supposedly engaged. Once she gets out of the show, it sounds like she still could not leave Dakota the fuck alone or stay away from Dakota despite maybe being engaged, okay? Then, It sounds like she either went to Dakota's house and the cops were called or something happened. Then the next day she leaves, comes back. Okay? Dakota has now made accusations that she has been abusive to Ever, which is their son, and that she also choked him with a necklace. That's new. And then Taylor's camp is saying, no, he hit her. There's been nothing done to Ever, anything like that. And then today, TMZ released a video that I am 100% certain Dakota sold them. That Dakota took this video in 2023, that this is what happened prior to the arrest. This is when the cops were called. The cops were not called by Dakota. I should make that note. Taylor was apparently screaming so aggressively, her neighbors called the police the night that she was arrested. She was apparently screaming so much, and their children were crying, and the police were called. So, this video has now come out, and because this video has now come out, even though ABC was already discussing pulling them because there's new domestic violence allegations. They're both allegating that there are domestic allegations against both of them, okay? But because there are allegations against Taylor, they were discussing of pulling the show. Now that this video has come out, they have pulled the show. It is not airing on Sunday. I think that's the right thing. I don't think this show should have ever been filmed. I don't think she ever should have been The Bachelorette because, frankly, regardless of circumstances, she does have a domestic violence thing on her record. And frankly, if it was a man, we would not be giving him this opportunity. Okay? They have pulled scenes of when they find out when you're on the show that there was accusations or that there was even arrests, anything like that. They yoink all those filming things. There was, I think it was, which show was it? I can't remember which season it was, but there was a front runner that people adored. And by week 2 or 3 of that Bachelorette season airing, an independent journalist found out that he had done a settlement with a girl who accused him of sexual assault. Okay. And went and got those records and, shared it. And so they obviously couldn't pull him from the show. The short had already been filmed. So they just deleted all the scenes with him. We never saw him on any of the dates. He was if he spoke, they cut it out. Yeah, dude. Every single fucking, it drives me insane. Her going back to him, again, this happened, she got arrested. She could have lost her children. I think she was finishing the divorce. I don't think she was even fully divorced at this point, which is why her family was so frustrated with her when she started dating Dakota in the first place. It's like, hey, you're not divorced yet. What are you doing? And then, so that was the separation, arrested, and then got pregnant again, because it looks like she believed she was pregnant at one point and miscarried. But she also doesn't protect herself whatsoever. They don't use condoms. She doesn't use birth control. She just tracks her period, which I get it. Tracking can be very effective, but let's not be dumb in the days of modern science. I'm sorry. That's not what happened. Okay. Chat, when you come into the middle of conversations, that's the problem. The guy they cut out is from a previous Bachelorette season. It's from years ago. Irrelevant. I'm just making the point that when this has happened, when a show is already airing, they cut it out entirely. However, they didn't know that guy was dealing with an assault allegation at the time and had apparently assaulted someone. I don't know how to say allegation. He settled. He assaulted someone, okay? That was then. They cut it out then. They knew, because it's ABC, they didn't just know that there was an actual arrest on Taylor's record for domestic violence okay? She is on one of their shows, and they have allegedly cut out incidences of them discussing Dakota and Taylor's physical aggression towards each other. They cut that out purposely. So you fucking knew, and you still, if this were vice versa, if this was the other way around, and this was a man, we would all be freaking out that these 30 women were signing up to date someone with a domestic history of domestic violence. I'm sorry, like Dakota's a psycho, that is true. Taylor needs serious fucking help. But using your fists in this way, throwing fucking chairs, what are we talking about? Of course they knew. ABC owns and puts on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and The Bachelorette. Her domestic violence arrest is the end of the first episode of the first season of her show. Of course they knew. The video wasn't out public to the available. Yeah, dude. If there's stuff that they didn't air, what they have aired is insane. Again, multiple things can be true. Dakota's a psycho. She needs serious fucking help. Everyone around her has fucking failed this girl, okay? And failed her fucking children, okay? Multiple things can be true. ABC fucked up by making her the Bachelorette. That is not, even the entire season 4. Everyone keeps talking about the Bachelorette as if this is a good, like, almost like it's therapy for her, which is insane. If you are dealing with an abusive relationship or a toxic relationship, let's use the word toxic maybe, because now, everything's an allegation currently aside from the initial stuff, then the answer is not, let's go film a reality TV show where I date 30 dudes. That's not the answer. This never should have this is insane. Make this rant so much better. Thank you. It's not Cheetos, they're cheese puffs. Like from some off-brand thing. I got them from a wine store because I went in there. I was like, I think they have root beer. They did. It's crazy because one of my favorite relationships from The Bachelorette that, like, they were together for years. Like, I actually think they were really happy. They got divorced after, like, 12 years together. And I was like, oh my God, love is dead. Like, that truly, because I was so excited when she was The Bachelorette. Oh, hold on. Do. Add. Done. Yes. Done. Okay, sorry, I was making Sparkly the lead moderator. Done. I was supposed to do that like forever ago. Okay. Hello. It's grim for pretty much all of the women. No, it's super grim. This season they did this weird thing where they made Dad Talk like get their own segments. I just fast forwarded through all of them, so I have no idea what happened. But it was just like, why am I hearing from Dad Talk in my Secret Lives of Mormon Wives show? I'm not here for them. I don't care about these men. The more I hear from them, the more I actively hate them. Even the ones that I was like, oh, at least he seems like a good husband. This season, I was like, God, get rid of all of them. I hope they all divorce their husbands. Jessie, we can get Jessie to divorce her husband. She's so close. She's just worried about the prenup. They seemed fine. I liked Macy's husband well enough. And then this season I was like, no. I like Connor a lot more. I do think he's a little into men. But, you know, who isn't? It's fine. He loves being Whitney's husband. Zach has always been... The fact that Zach is still on my screen, I'm annoyed. And then, who's fucking Connor? Is that Jessie's husband? I hope Jessie leaves her husband. Yeah. I don't love hearing about Michaela because it's sad. So, Michaela is one of the wives on the show, chat. And I talked about this in my first video, and I think it got trimmed out. I think William cut it or something. I don't know if it's in the episode. But the first season of the show, Michaela's barely in it because she was dealing with skin stuff. She has like a skin condition. It looks like just severe neck and facial eczema that like is really upsetting to her, but I'm not quite sure. She doesn't know what's causing it. She's not quite sure. But after she had her most recent baby, she had a crazy flare up. And thing is that her current husband, now it's her ex, they are separated. She was 16 and he was 21 when he got her pregnant. She is also a survivor of child sexual abuse. So now, around this time, so much of this, every time I saw him on the fucking screen, I was like, fuck you. Because a lot of their issues this season and the last season are intimacy issues. Because she is getting help for her child sexual trauma. And I think she is finally realizing, oh, it's fucked up that this guy was attracted to me when I was a teenager. And then I married him. And then had another child with him. Okay? Also, she had daughters. And for a lot of women, if you've gone through this, you may not see anything of it in the moment, but then you start realizing, oh, when my daughter is 16, how am I going to feel about if a 21-year-old comes around her, you know? And so understandably, once she started realizing the trauma, she stopped wanting to have sex with her fucking husband. And so in this season, the conversations, she is talking about, I need to move out to get help from, like, I need space, I need to heal. I want us to be happy. I want to be here for the girls, you know. Like I think their mom wants to I think they want to see their mom be like healthy and happy. And then he makes a comment, it's like, yeah, well, I would like my children to also see us, you know, having a good intimate relationship. Like it's like a weird, he is so bothered that his wife is not having sex with him. And it's like, I get it, but also, dude, you never caught a case. You didn't catch the case. Are we shocked? Like, what? Just, I wanted to punch him. Dude, Whitney's growing on me. I'm so sorry. I like Whitney now. I'm so sorry. The shit with Jen really irritated me. Because I was like, in season 2, because I was so pissed at Whitney in the first season, especially with how she spoke about Jen. And then in season 2, I do feel like she made up a lot of ground with Jen. She was the only one that was defending her and trying to get her help and like coming in and helping her. And then this season, I was like, Jen, where the fuck is this coming from? And again, so much of Jen's shit, again, fuck ass husband. Whitney's growing on me. I'm so sorry. Giving diva. I'm so sorry. Don't worry though. I'm like 90% certain she's not filming this season of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. If she hasn't already left the show, she will be. She's like leaps and bounds ahead of all of the others. Someone said people are more mad about Taylor Frankie Paul than the president being a pedophile. I am also mad about the president being a pedophile. I've always been on record about the president being mad the president's a pedophile. Those things are not equivalent, in my opinion. Mentioned going on missions once or twice, but I never realized they were Mormon till later. I will say there was a lot of people at my school that I was surprised they were Mormon, and I only found out because there was a special dance. And that like one of the churches was putting on, the Mormon churches. And I was like, is everyone going to that? And they're like, no, it's only if you're Mormon. And I was like, you're Mormon? Yeah, she's on. You guys, she just broke the record for ticket sales for Chicago in the show's 29-year run. Her opening week, she has broken records for a Broadway show that has been running for 29 years, that is known for stunt casting, and she broke a record. She's also going to be in a Christmas movie that she is also producing. Like, she did pretty well in Dancing with the Stars. She's fine. Or at least they seem like pretty decent folks. So they got in to learn. I think there's a difference between like SoCal Mormons. I'm not a Mormon, but like I'm from SoCal. And like these Utah Mormons. Because even the way that like Layla talks about, God, I want Layla to be single. The thing with Layla, she's single again right now, I think. Layla, I think, needs help for her eating disorder, which she is, it looks like she is getting, which is good. But I also think she needs to be single. Because I think every single season of the show she has been with a different man. And it doesn't go well. And I think she needs to be single. I want most of these women to be single, frankly. I'm on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. It's like I have friends that are very casually Christian, and then I've met not friends. I've known people that like are extremely Bible thumper Christians. You know, like I think there's when you are just in the church, I do think there's different elements to it. You know. Let's see. So all of them are a type because those who aren't. No, I'm literally telling you though. Like I've met Mormons, I've known Mormons who weren't like that. Like I'm literally telling. Like sure, when they got home, but it's a different vibe in day to day. Supposedly the Aston rumors were rumors. Let me pull up the Planet F1 article. Aston Martin has issued a statement addressing the speculation surrounding the team leadership and Adrian Newey's position. Subject to the team principal role at Aston Martin has come into sharp focus in the last 24 hours as Adrian Newey is understood to be leading the team's effort to secure a new long-term figurehead. Adrian Newey remains Aston Martin's team principal amid speculation. Aston Martin has issued a statement clarifying the official position of the topic and its team leadership. The team will not be engaging in media speculation about the senior leadership team, says Aston Martin spokesperson told Planet F1. Adrian Newey continues to lead the team as team principal and managing technical partner. Statement comes following 24 hours in which the topic of a potential leadership change at the Silverstone-based squad has been the talk of the sport. On Thursday, Planet F1 revealed that Newey has been the forefront of the months-long search for a new team principal. Yeah, it was Autosport that I saw make a statement saying he was stepping down, but... So... let's see. Justin Bieber and Usher got into an intense altercation at an Oscars after party hosted by Beyonce and Jay-Z. Really? What happened? Okay, supposedly it's a rumor. I'm so sorry. There's someone posted like a really long breakdown and I was like, oh, this will be helpful. No, it's all AI. And it says a whole lot of fucking nothing. Sources connected to Justin tell TMZ Usher came to Justin at the party with energy and anger, and the two got into a heated exchange. Our Bieber sources say there was no physical contact, but it was intense. Okay. TMZ says it was a fight. Bieber's team said it was no physical contact. On it originally, yeah. Oh, yes. Apparently the letter was released. Hold on. I think the race had it. Also, DS exits Formula E at the end of the season. Where is it? Letter? Where's the letter? Give me the letter. Can I just read the full letter? Jesus. Okay, hold on. Let me go to Twitter. Because I saw they had a video of it. Hang on. I want to read the letter. I don't want a summary. Let me see. Okay. Oliver Rowland, Lucas di Grassi, on behalf of the FIA Formula E World Championship drivers, to Mohammed Ben Solayem, I always do that, President, Federation Internationale de l'Automobile. Subject formal preparation. Oh, hold on. Close enough. Okay. Formal representation from FIA Formula E World Championship drivers regarding stewarding and race direction standards. Dear President Ben Solayem, I always do that. First, we do see a lot of effort and improvement year over year with the local ASNs marshaling safety, track conditions, technical fairness, and general protocols. We write to you collectively as the undersigned drivers of the FIA Formula E World Championship to formally express our shared and growing concern regarding the current standard, consistency, and procedural coherence of stewarding and race direction within the championship. After multiple on-track incidents, post-race interviews, and several discussions with stewards and race directors across events, we feel compelled to elevate these concerns to your office as meaningful and sustainable progress has not been achieved through existing channels. 1. Inconsistency in decision-making and penalty application. We have observed similar racing incidents resulting in materially different penalties, with interpretation of racing standards varying between events and inconsistent thresholds being applied for sanctions. This undermines predictability, safety, and sporting fairness. 2. Lack of continuity in stewarding panels. Frequent changes in the composition of stewarding panels have led to divergent interpretations, inconsistent applications of precedent, and significant disparities in decisions. Establishing a core stewarding panel for the season would materially improve consistency, standards, and accountability. Driver advisors and championship-specific expertise. Formula E presents unique technical and sporting characteristics, including energy management dynamics, regenerative braking systems, attack mode procedures, and street circuit layouts. Stewarding personnel and driver advisors must have there's a caption over. Direct and relevant championship-specific experience to ensure accurate assignment. Sorry, I can't get the last word. Race director, logic, leadership, communication, and transparency. Concerns remain regarding communication protocols, the timeliness of decision making, and the transparency of underlying rationale, and the absence of a structured post-event debrief process. The current race director doesn't demonstrate sufficient ability to reflect on and assess his own errors, which limits the opportunity for meaningful improvement from race to race. Without the capacity and humility to acknowledge and learn from mistakes, it is little evidence of continuous improvement. 5. Requested actions. We respectfully request consideration of internal evaluation of race director, understanding and reasoning of the sporting rules, establishing a core season-long stewarding panel, appointing driver advisors and direct Formula E with a direct Formula E experience, creating a formal structured driver race direction forum, publishing clear championship-specific stewarding guidelines, and conducting an independent review of stewarding consistency. I think that's it. I'm assuming there was a sign-off somewhere else, but that's all there is on here. Yeah. Okay. Formula E is the electric one. Don't get cheese dust on your mouse. I already licked my fingers clean. This is my home and I can do what I want. This is Formula E, not F1, but apparently one team is pissed at their drivers for being involved in this, and I'm so curious which one it was. I want to know who it was. I like the way the Formula E cars sound. What is stewarding? How do I define stewarding? So stewarding is like the rule enforcers. I think that's the easiest, simplest way I can phrase it. Like you might hear after the fact, like after a race, like, oh, you've been called to the stewards. They're referring it to the stewards. When you see a race and it's like under investigation for a penalty, it's usually because the stewards are like re-looking at the footage to see if they should dole out a penalty and to who. So it's like the enforcers, I guess, is probably the straightest way for me to say it. The article I read said no one told their team principals they were sending this letter. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't either, frankly. They don't have their own union, do they? The GDPA is the drivers' union for Formula One, for drivers by drivers, basically. I don't think Formula E has something similar, though. Like the umpires? Sure. What's a team principal? Like the boss, team boss. Making the shots, calling the shots. Let's see. Oh yeah. Also, we might go to nuclear war. So it was nice knowing you all. Some of you don't seem to understand what nuclear war means. Here's a brief summary. You won't be okay. So, great. Yeah. Hope the e-drivers get some positive movement. I mean, we shall see. Historically, MBS does not respond well to things like this. Small Science Sundays about the effects of nuclear radiation. Nuclear war again? Yeah. How hard is it to impeach him? It's not even like, that's the thing. So every day there's something. So basically, okay, so gas prices are going to be really bad. So basically, I don't know if you guys saw Trump's Truth Social post yesterday. I saw it after stream. He basically yelled at Israel because they targeted an Iranian oil field that Trump apparently said don't do that, and they did it anyway. I also low-key think Netanyahu might be dead. I think he might be dead. There's no proof, but the speculation I've heard, it doesn't sound unplausible. So I don't know what's going on right now. But basically, that oil field is bad, and then I think Iran nuked something else. I'm not certain. I don't like nuclear war. I'm so sorry. This is not funny, but that is the funniest thing you possibly could have said about this. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, hang on, I'm reading it. I'm reading someone's voice note because I can't play it right now. Also, not dead. Middle East Crisis Live says Israel acted alone in Iran gas field. Denies dragging U.S. into war. I mean, we're in war. We're just not calling it that. Is Netanyahu on camera when he says that? Hold on. Let me pull it up. Okay, hang on. There's video of him on a podium. Hold on. Jeez, let's see. I don't know what this is. Okay, never mind. Yeah, we talked about Nui. He still has his job. Things are weird. I don't know what's afoot at the House of Aston. Oil shortage will have massive repercussions on food scarcity. Yeah, so like the oil shortage, we are like, guys, I don't want to scare you, but like the world goes through like 100 million gallons of oil a day, like something insane. That's like our baseline. Yeah, so like when we don't have that, there's crises. Our government is a joke. Oh yeah, that's not up for debate. It's fucking absurd. Let's see. Should we pull up a video of what would happen in a nuclear war? Should we be informed? I personally feel better when I know more about a situation. There's no like feeling better, like this is bad. Like, no? Wow, I've never had you all agree. I'm sorry. I've never had you all agree so quickly. This is not funny, but that's really funny. That's really funny. I would like to know, as someone without a bunker, I would like to know, is that we don't know. We don't know. It wouldn't go well, but let's find out. Nuclear war. Because who has, let's see, who actually has nukes right now? Us, Israel. Let's see, who else? Okay, here, nuclear historian answers nuclear war questions. Did we watch this fully? I think we didn't finish watching this, right? Did we watch this one? Okay, I'm dipping. That's all right, Kuna, I understand. Means that any nuclear attack will almost certainly be shot down prior to it being a real problem. Fair. You will wish that the initial blast kills you because the aftermath is not fun. Those who survive will wish they died in the initial blast. Okay. By Annie Jacobson. Gotcha. Writing it down. Precisely. Avoid daily. Yeah, dude, we go through a lot. Pakistan and India both have nukes. Russia has them, yes or no? Wait, now I'm looking up who has nukes. Who has nukes? Who has nuclear weapons? Countries with nuclear weapons. Russia, France, India, United States, United Kingdom, Israel, China, Pakistan, North Korea. A lot of these, ourselves included, I don't like that have them. These states have roughly 12,331 nuclear warheads, with over 9,600 in active military stockpiles, according to the Federation of Atomic Scientists from 2025. While this is a significant decline from the approximately 70, we had 70,000 at one fucking point. Oh yeah, during the Cold War, but still, that's too many. Nuclear arsenals are expected to grow over the coming decade, and today's forces are vastly more capable. Dear God. About broken arrows. Die slowly for 10 days or survive the... I just deal with it. I handle the problem. Has a lot more nukes than anyone else. This says Russia has at least 200 more than us. This is from ICANN.org. Gross incompetence would be an immediate disqualifier for office. You would think. Non-proliferation agreement that led to this. They're all expiring soon, by the way. Was that not what caused... Weren't there negotiations that were happening with Iran? And that's what Trump is claiming all of this started? 6 nations hosting nuclear weapons. Italy, Turkey, Belgium, Germany, Netherlands, and Belarus. But they don't know how many. I don't like the question mark next to Belarus. I don't like that. I don't like that, actually. And Russia has the most confirmed nuclear weapons, by the way. I think, did Israel or Iran hit Russia? I heard there was a hit on Russia. Hang on. Oh, no. Was a nuclear plant run by Iran and Russia hit by the US? What we know. That's from Newsweek. Everything is awful. Okay, we're watching science videos. Here, I'll make a pinned. All right. Boop. Okay. I understand if you guys gotta leave. I understand. Have work tomorrow and can't afford to have nightmares. I understand. Have a good night. All right. What if we nuke a city? Do you want to see this one? Maybe the animation will make it less traumatizing.
Playing around with nuclear weapons in videos is fun. There's a visceral joy in blowing things up and a horrifying fascination with things like fireballs, shockwaves, and radiation. And while it does help put our destructive power in perspective, it's not the best way of understanding the real impact of a nuclear explosion. This isn't about city stacks of TNT or about how bright an explosion is. Nuclear weapons are about you. So we've partnered with the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement to explore what would really happen if a nuclear weapon were detonated in a major city today. Not nuclear war, just one explosion. We begin our story in the middle of downtown in a major city. People are going to work,
like
studying
LA.
for exams, are lost in their thoughts and daily lives. Right here, a nuclear weapon is detonated and time freezes. The first phase of the explosion happens within less than a second. In a millisecond, a ball of plasma hotter than the sun appears and grows in a fireball to more than 2 kilometers across. Within this ball, everyone is just gone. Think of water dripped onto a very hot pan. A sizzle, and then there's nothing.
Jesus.
Most buildings, cars, trees, tacky sculptures, and people, all evaporated. First, the flash, an intense tsunami of light, washes over the city in an instant. If you happen to have your head pointed in the direction of the explosion, it renders you blind for a few hours.
Jesus.
The heat of this light produces a thermal pulse, so energetic and hot that it just burns everything as far as 13 kilometers from the detonation site. What this means is that everything in an area of 500 square kilometers that is able to burn starts burning. Plastic, wood, fabric, hair, and skin. If you happen to be in reach of the thermal pulse, one moment you're on your way to work, the next moment you're on fire. Now the second phase begins. It happens in a few seconds. Most people will now first notice that something is wrong, but it's already too late for hundreds of thousands.
Jesus.
The flash is followed by the shockwave. The heat and radiation of the fireball create a bubble of superheated and supercompressed air around it that's now expanding explosively. Faster than the
Nuclear
speed of
bomb.
sound, creating winds stronger than hurricanes and tornadoes. Human infrastructure is no match for its power. Most major buildings within a kilometer of the fireball are just ground up down to their base. Only steel-reinforced concrete is able to partially resist the pressure. In the surrounding parks where retirees feed the ducks, trees blackened and smoldering from the heat a second before snap like toothpicks. If you're outside, you get tossed away like a grain of dust in a tornado. The shockwave weakens as it travels outwards, but still, about 175 square kilometers of houses collapse like they're made of cards, trapping tens of thousands of people who didn't have any time to react. Gas stations explode and fires spread throughout the rubble. A mushroom cloud made from the remains of the fireball, dust and ash rises kilometers into the sky in the next few minutes and casts a dark shadow over the ruined city. This violently pulls in fresh air surrounding the city, destroying more buildings and providing an abundance of oxygen. It depends on the city what happens next. If there's enough fuel, fires may turn into a firestorm that burns the rubble, everybody trapped in it, and people trying to flee the devastation. Up to 21 kilometers from the explosion, people just like you rush to their windows to take pictures of the mushroom cloud, unaware that the shockwave is still coming at them, about to shatter their windows and create a blizzard of sharp glass. The third phase begins in the coming hours and days. We're used to the idea that help will come, no matter the disaster. This time is different. A nuclear explosion is like every natural disaster at once. There are hundreds of thousands or millions of people with serious injuries, lacerations, broken bones, serious burns. In the next few minutes and hours, thousands more will die because of these injuries.
Damn.
Countless people are trapped in collapsed buildings like in earthquakes or blinded by the flash, deaf from the blast wave, and unable to flee through streets impassable with rubble and debris. They're terrified, confused, and don't know what's happened to them or why. Most likely, many hospitals have been leveled along with all the other buildings, and most medical professionals are either dead or injured along with everyone else.
Damn.
The survivors lucky enough to have been in metro tunnels or standing in the right place to be unburned and unhurt won't have truly escaped harm yet. Depending on the type of weapon, where it explodes, and even the weather, an awful black rain can begin, with radioactive ash and dust
Gee, you
descending
mean
on
like
the
what
city,
happened in
covering
Iran?
everything and everyone. The invisible, malicious, silent horror of radiation takes its turn.
Jesus.
Every breath carries poison to the lungs of the survivors. Over the coming days, the people who receive the highest doses of radiation exposure will die. There will be no help, not for hours or maybe even days. Civilization doesn't operate when there is a total breakdown of infrastructure. Roads are blocked, train tracks warped, runways cluttered with rubble. No water, no electricity, no communication, no stores to replenish supplies from. Help from surrounding cities will have a hard time entering the disaster zone, and even if they can, the radioactive contamination will make it risky to get too close. After a nuclear attack, you're on your own. So, bit by bit, people emerge from the rubble, on foot, contaminated with radioactive fallout, carrying what little they may have left. They are slow, in pain, traumatized, and they all need food, water, and medical treatment fast. And the damage done by a nuclear weapon doesn't end when the fires burn out and the smoke clears. The hospitals in the neighboring cities are under-equipped for a disaster of this scale and overwhelmed with tens or hundreds of thousands of patients with serious injuries. In the weeks, months, and years to come, many of those who survived will succumb to cancers like leukemia. The reason no government wants you to think about all this is because there is no serious humanitarian response possible to a nuclear explosion. There's no way to really help the immediate victims of a nuclear attack. This is not a hurricane, wildfire, or earthquake, or nuclear accident. It is all of these things at once, but worse. No nation on Earth is prepared to deal with it. The world has changed in the past few years, with world leaders again explicitly and publicly threatening each other with nuclear
Lives
weapons.
within driving distance of the border,
Many
yeah.
experts think the danger of a nuclear strike is higher than it has been in decades. Governments tell their citizens that it's good that we have nuclear weapons, but it's bad when anyone else gets them. That it's somehow necessary to threaten others with mass destruction to keep us safe. But does this make you feel safe?
No.
It only takes a small group
I
of
hate
people
it.
with power to go crazy or rogue, a small misstep or a simple misunderstanding to unleash a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. Exploding stuff in videos is fun. Exploding things in real life, not so much. There is a solution though. Eliminating all nuclear weapons and vowing
All right, let's watch one more. What happens after nuclear war?
nuclear war would forever split human history into anything that happened before and the post-war apocalypse. In the worst case, mass fires consume everything within tens of thousands of square kilometers, killing hundreds of millions
Okay,
within hours.
we don't want that.
But the
Bad.
worst part comes after that. Nuclear war could trigger a
Yeah.
nuclear winter that
Nuclear
might
winter would
kill
be bad.
billions, maybe even completely collapsing our civilization. How
The
does
moral of
it
the story is
work?
everything is bad.
And what would it look like? Fire causes winter. When a nuclear weapon is detonated, a bubble of gas hotter than the sun is forced into existence, so hot that everything within kilometers immediately begins to burn. The terror bubble expands rapidly, filling the sky over its target, creating a devastating shockwave that causes most of the immediate destruction. Basically, you break a lot of stuff and set it on fire. And in the worst case, this turns into a firestorm that consumes everything and everyone on the ground. Right after the explosion, a gigantic mushroom cloud rises over the destruction like a demon throning over its perverse work. But in the following hours, a far more deadly cloud forms. The fire burning cities, forests, or fields heats up so much air that it creates its own microclimate and wind system. Hot air and hot smoke rise, pulling in fresh air from the surroundings and fresh oxygen, stoking the flames
It
even
can only
more.
good happen. No.
This
bad.
creates an updraft and forms a colossal pyrocumulonimbus cloud that carries the soot and aerosols from the flames high into the stratosphere. Under normal conditions, the soot rising from a big fire is quickly washed out by rain. But a pyrocumulonimbus cloud can reach altitudes well above the height where rain clouds form. Once above the tropopause,
That'd be
there's
bad.
simply no weather to remove soot from the atmosphere, so it can stay aloft for years.
I'm
If
48,
this
I've
happens
lived
to a
the
single
past. I'm
city,
not worried about the
it's
nukes.
a tragedy, but a fairly local one. But in a
Good for you.
full-scale
You
nuclear
win?
war,
I don't know.
warring nations following the cold logic of mutually assured
Have you had someone as dumb as Trump have access to nukes before, though? Is the question.
destruction could use hundreds or even thousands of nuclear weapons all at once, creating hundreds of firestorms, sending up to 150 million tons of soot,
Nixon?
a cube the size of a skyscraper, directly into the stratosphere.
Yeah, after Gaddafi
In the
gave
next
up
few
Libya's
days and
nuclear
weeks, the
ambitions and
soot
then was
begins
killed,
to
most
blanket
countries
the
took
Earth
away
at high
if you have a nuclear
altitudes,
program, you do not
absorbing
give it up,
light high
ever.
above the ground and preventing sunlight from reaching the surface. This is not like science
Forget about
fiction where the
Nixon.
sky turns dark and the sun disappears. Winter is what happens when just a little less sunlight hits the ground, and now suddenly a lot less sunlight gets through. Yesterday, the world was normal. Today, nuclear winter begins. Winter causes hunger. How bad nuclear winter would be is still an active area of research. It all hinges on one thing: how much stuff will burn really hot? How many firestorms will be caused by the heat of the explosions? This depends on many factors, from the materials a city is made of to the time of the year, if a forest is nearby, and so on. So just keep in mind we're working with some assumptions. Here's the good news. Nuclear winter is not permanent, and definitely no new ice age. The effects on the climate only last as long as the soot remains in the atmosphere, which is at most a decade or so until it clears out and temperatures normalize.
That's still a long
The
time.
bad news is that this causes almost
That's an
immediate
adolescence.
climate change within a few weeks. It disrupts our climate system faster than any living being can adapt to. In this new climate, our seasons are suddenly all wrong. Winters are much longer, summers shorter and colder, or gone altogether. This also means less evaporation over the oceans, which means less rain and maybe large-scale droughts. This is bad because our food eats the sun. Without good summers and enough rain, growing seasons shrink or even collapse. The majority of humanity lives in an area called the mid-latitudes, a strip of land that has the ideal temperature for our species, not just because it's not too hot or cold, it's also where the plants we eat grow best. The vast majority of the food we eat stems from a few highly efficient crops that are mostly produced in a few very agriculturally productive regions like the US Great Plains or Ukraine. From these bread and
He also, okay, I hear you, NPC. However, he also didn't think that Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz, despite the fact that that is their one card truly to play, is their control of the Strait of Hormuz. So, I don't know. I don't think he thinks through everything. I think he's dumb.
rice baskets of the world, they get traded and shipped around the world. In the worst case of a full-scale nuclear war, the temperatures in the mid-latitudes will probably stay below freezing for several years. Nothing at all can grow under these conditions, and the world's bread baskets would suddenly turn empty. If food production crashes, the world's food
Turtles?
producers would very likely ramp up prices
Not the Ninja
or even
Turtle
stop
reference.
selling food to other countries, if they're still able to farm their fields at all. It's easy to calculate how many people can be alive on Earth. You take all the calories we can produce and divide them by what the average person needs to survive. If you have more people than calories, then within a few weeks, you don't anymore. Humanity has only a few weeks' supply of crops and food, not enough to survive this drastic drop in production. But the climate is not the only issue. Modern industrialized agriculture is a complex affair that relies on functioning supply chains to provide unthinkable amounts of industrially produced fertilizer and chemicals to kill weeds and vermin. Massive numbers of specialized modern machinery is plowing, sowing, harvesting, and distributing. After a nuclear war, especially if the countries that produce the food were part of the nuclear exchange, there may simply be no more fuel, fertilizer, or machine parts because there are no more oil refineries, ports, and other essential infrastructure left, damaging global food production even more. Okay, so now that we've set the stage, let's look at what science says about the actual wars that could happen. Actual nuclear war. Today, there are two main conflicts that scientists think about when making calculations of nuclear winter: a nuclear war between India and Pakistan, and one between the US and Russia. The most likely smallish nuclear exchange would be fought today between India and Pakistan, with relatively low-yield weapons. Even in a pretty mild nuclear war like this, the immediate explosions would kill around 27 million people,
that's bad.
which is horrible enough. In just a few hours, more people would die than in all of World War I.
Jesus.
The ensuing fires would not cause a nuclear winter, but a mild nuclear autumn. But even this would disrupt the climate and thereby global agriculture, enough to starve up to 250 million people worldwide. Unfortunately, India and Pakistan are in an arms race and have been increasing the number and power of warheads in their arsenal. The next stage of escalation would be war with hundreds of nuclear weapons, the bombs and fires destroying many major population centers and killing over 100 million people. A war on this scale would cause a nuclear winter that would damage global agriculture enough to cut the available calories for humanity in half.
Wow.
The number
that's
of people that starve to death
Horrible.
would be as high as 2 billion. 1 in 4 humans alive today. The worst-case scenario is a full-scale global war between NATO nations and Russia, or China, which also continues to build its nuclear arsenal. In a war between a former, future, and current superpower, thousands of nuclear weapons could be detonated.
Horrible.
In a
Bad.
scenario with around 4,400 nuclear weapons, 360 million people would perish right away. We have no other event to even compare the death and destruction.
The thing about Covfefe that always drove me insane is that he easily could have just said that he was dictating and someone typed it wrong. Instead, because what he was trying to say is coverage. He was trying to say the fake news coverage is what he was trying to say. But he said fake news Covfefe. And so people were like, what does this mean? So rather than acknowledge that it was just a typo, he literally tweeted out, one day everyone will know the true meaning of Covfefe. Like an idiot. Dumb. Insane.
Destruction too. It's like humanity dropping an asteroid on itself. The nuclear winter that follows such an apocalyptic war would tank human calorie production by as much as 90%.
God.
Not only would almost all of our agriculture take an immediate and deadly hit, the climate would take at least a decade to recover. Because a war like this would specifically hit the world regions that produce most of the food for humanity, recovery will be much, much harder than with other conflicts. Within 2 years, the global death toll from starvation could rise to about 5 billion. In mid-latitude countries like Russia, China, Canada, the US, and much of Europe, only a few % of the population might survive. Humanity will never be the same again. While nowhere is truly safe, some nations in the Southern Hemisphere may fare well enough to endure, while the rest of the world collapses. All the nuclear weapon states
So
are in the Northern
Australia could
Hemisphere,
be chill?
so a few countries like
Should we go to Australia? Australia? Do you want some room in the outback?
Australia, New Zealand, and Argentina
New
may be
Zealand?
able to endure for a bunch of different reasons. Their nuclear winter would be milder, they have a lot of livestock that would not be as affected.
What would happen to the people that are on the bases in Antarctica? The research hubs. Would this lead to would the glaciers shift immediately? I feel like we're not talking enough about the global, the climate change potentially. We're talking about the nuclear winter, obviously, which is a change to the climate. But we do have glaciers. I'm assuming this would affect the glaciers. They'd be safe, but would starve. Presumably outdated map where in Canada it would be safe for a nuclear attack. I know there's a map of here in the United States of where you should go, not for nuclear attack, but which states will be inhabitable still, actually get decent, be habitable because of climate change. California's fucked. Apparently I should go to Nebraska or something.
As crops, so they would probably stop exporting food and focus on keeping their own people alive, assuming they aren't invaded for their food by other starving nations.
We'd probably
It's
do
safe
that.
to say that the world would become extremely unpleasant for a long time, and it's impossible to know how many people would have died when the nuclear winter ends. In the worst case, human civilization could collapse and the survivors would be thrown back thousands of years, slowly trying to recover a world full of scars and graves. Eventually, when they've rebuilt civilization,
Giant
would
spires
they
would be
ever
purple.
build nuclear weapons again? We know for sure that we need to do anything we can to make sure nuclear war never happens. This video was supported.
No. All right, let me go back. Let's see. I had to search nuclear. Let's go to
I'm a
our...
nuclear historian. I'm here today to answer your questions from the internet.
Yay!
This is Nuclear History
I
Support.
think we watched this, but we're watching it again. Fresh eyes.
All right, first up, we have one from @American_Gov. What countries have nukes?
Yeah, we have seen this. We're watching it
There are 9
again.
countries today in the world with nuclear weapons that we know about. The United States.
That we know about
first
is
country
crazy.
That got them. The Soviet Union got them in 1949. Today, those nuclear weapons are in the hands of the Russian Federation. The United Kingdom, People's Republic of China, France. These are the 5 officially allowed countries under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty to have nuclear weapons. There is also Israel, India, Pakistan, and North Korea. So 9 countries total. There were a few countries that inherited nuclear weapons after the fall of the Soviet Union, Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan, but they returned all of those weapons to Russia in an agreement. LJ Whitman 1 asks, who decides which countries can have nukes and which countries can't? What are the criteria?
Good question.
The decision about who can, quote unquote, have nukes and who, quote unquote, can't, this is the result of a treaty, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which was created in 1968 to try and slow the spread of nuclear weapons. If you sign the treaty, you agree that only 5 countries, the countries that had tested nuclear weapons by 1967, are allowed to have nuclear weapons. Anybody else is not allowed under that treaty.
But
So
they
if
were
you
given up
sign
when
that
apartheid
treaty,
ended?
You agree those are the only 5 that have nuclear weapons. And nobody
Because
else.
apartheid ended?
Pakistan, India, and Israel never signed the treaty, have developed their own nuclear weapons. There's also North Korea, which was a member of the treaty, but then left the treaty and made nuclear weapons. Is it illegal for them to have nuclear weapons? Only in the sense that they're not members of the treaty. What the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty does is it allows any
Yeah,
country.
we talked about the missing nukes. There are nukes that are missing. There is one off the coast of Georgia, supposedly. But they're like, we can't get it, so no one can get it. That I think is also like a worse, because imagine you, like, oh, we dropped this nuke in the ocean, and then it hits another nuke. What happens? A lost nuke from World War II or the Cold War. Like, what happens if one nuke hits another nuke? A secret third nuke explodes? Like, what happens?
Without nuclear weapons to know that anybody else who signed the treaty is probably not also trying to get nuclear weapons. So if you're worried that your rival across the way might be getting nukes, if you and they both sign the treaty,
never found
then
it.
you're not going
Great.
to have to worry
They
as
kiss.
much about
Dead
getting
Vinny,
the
you know what I
weapons.
mean.
It also gives them access to peaceful nuclear technology.
All
like
of what's
nuclear
going on now,
reactors.
think of
It
what
means
countries
that
may
they have
secretly
the
begin
right to
developing their own,
work
yeah.
on that kind of stuff without worrying that somebody's going to try and blow up their reactor out of fear that it's a nuclear bomb. Zip Thwong asks, was Iran building a bomb? If so, how close to a bomb was Iran? How were the nuclear talks going before Israel preemptively attacked? Great question. Was
that's right,
Iran
'cause this was
building a
7
nuclear
months
weapon?
ago.
No, I don't think anybody thinks Iran was actively building a nuclear weapon.
Someone
The
did.
accusation made particularly by Israel is that Iran was
Gee,
setting up the
you don't say.
conditions under which it could build a
Who could have
nuclear
guessed they
weapon
would make that
very
accusation?
quickly if it wanted to. Iran did have a nuclear weapons program before 2003, and the Iran deal was them essentially saying, we're going to close down and disable all the little things we were doing that were bad.
They do the
and
fusion
we
dance?
won't do them anymore. Once the United States left the Iran deal, Iran has been creeping up beyond the limits of the deal. Depending on what your stance is, you either think that's because they are trying to get ready to make a bomb, or because they're trying to compel the United States to come back to the negotiation table as a way of saying, look, if you leave this deal, which we did, we can do this now, and if you want us to stop, come back to the deal. Now, how are the nuclear talks going? I don't think that great. I don't think it's clear exactly what Iran wants per se. They're sort of leaving the door open for different options, which would make a lot of sense given the recent history that they've had
For
with
example,
the
for
United
medicine
States
or
and with
energy.
Israel. But they were not
Dale, are you
racing
saying that
to
they
make
go
the bomb.
more
Hell Here
inactive then?
Kitten asks, WTF is a nuclear football.
Oh,
It's
we've-
basically a suitcase. What the nuclear football is meant to do
skipping ahead.
is allow the president.
Oh.
Now, there are a number of quote unquote lost nuclear weapons. And what that really means is there is a nuclear weapon that was on, say, an airplane or a submarine, and that airplane either crashed or the submarine sunk, and the weapon is now in the environment in the world. These kinds of accidents were not super uncommon during the Cold War. The United States had a program in the 1950s and 1960s to basically have airplanes with nuclear weapons flying in the air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that if nuclear war started, they could have some kind of guarantee that they'd have a plane ready to retaliate no matter what. Same thing with submarines. They still go around with nuclear weapons on them all the time. If you have thousands of airplanes flying tens of thousands of flight hours, you're going to have an accident every once in a while. Some of these accidents have resulted in like the weapon either itself falling out of the plane, or in the case of a submarine, just going down to the bottom of the ocean. Any kind of mishap you can imagine, a lot of them have happened. In most cases, of course, the United States is very interested in recovering those weapons, both because it's not a good look to have lost nuclear weapons, but also they contain the fuel you might need to make more nuclear weapons, and you don't want that falling in the wrong hands.
Or
And
as you
so
find
the
those
U.S.
freaking nukes on them,
always
yeah.
tried to recover these things, but sometimes the warhead sunk so deep underground that after weeks of trying to dig it
Georgia.
out, they couldn't get it, or it's at the bottom of the ocean and they couldn't find it. They're lost in the sense that the U.S. can't recover them, not that they don't know more or less where they are, and they're lost in the sense that the U.S. couldn't recover them and thinks nobody else could either, and decided to sort of cut their losses. And maybe they put a monument that says "Don't dig here," but they concluded that if the Army couldn't dig this thing up, nobody else could either. Matilda Mother 67 asks, why did the United States bomb Hiroshima and Nagasaki instead of some military headquarters or other places where civilians weren't? There were a lot of processes and meetings and decisions made along the way about what this bomb was, how it should work, what it would be used against. At the beginning of making the bomb, like say 1943, the attitude was, we'll probably use this against some sort of military installation. The first target they even discussed was basically the Japanese equivalent of Pearl Harbor. It's called Truk. And sure, there would be some civilians there, but it's not dropping it in the middle of a city. By 1945, 2 years later, one, Truk is not an issue militarily anymore. They'd cut it off. It was not a target. And two, the United States had gotten in the habit of targeting cities. In the early part of 1945, the United States began firebombing Japanese cities with napalm. They burnt Tokyo. They burnt Osaka. They ended up burning 67 Japanese cities by dropping basically flaming gasoline on them. The other issue is that the bomb they ended up with was one that would work best if you detonated it pretty high in the air. If you detonate it high in the air, you spread the blast damage out wider, but your blast damage is also less intense. So if your target is some built-up bunker, you're not going to destroy it by blowing up the bomb in the air. If your target is a house, you don't need as much blast pressure to destroy it. So they had a bomb that they ended up with through technical decisions along the way that would be most impressive if you used it on a city. And they had many discussions about what kind of target, what's the goal of this weapon. The goal of the weapon was essentially psychological. They wanted to cause the Japanese people to say, we cannot tolerate this, we cannot win, let's surrender. One of the people involved in the discussion said that the goal was to have the Japanese basically capitulate to the power of the universe. Oh, you don't want to surrender to the United States or the Soviet Union? Well, what if we use the power of the sun to destroy you? To me, the really interesting thing is
The power
that
of the
Hiroshima was not their first choice at
Yeah.
all for a target. The first choice that the military had was Kyoto, former capital of Japan. It was taken off the list
going
by the
there.
Secretary of War, Henry Stimson, because he thought that the city was too civilian in nature, was a cultural heritage site. Hiroshima got then bumped up to first place because it had some military bases and manufacturing in it. It had not yet been bombed. Its geography was such that it was sort of like a bowl-shaped city surrounded by hills, and that meant it would kind of intensify the effect of the weapon. So from the point of view of the United States military and the scientists who consulted from them, it was a perfectly good target. Nagasaki was only added to the target list after Kyoto was taken off of it because they wanted a backup target. The actual target for the second bombing run was a different city, Kokura. Kokura had a major arsenal in the center of it that produced weapons for the Japanese and was surrounded by workers' houses. So by their criteria, this was a great target. When they got to Kokura, though, they found that it was covered by smoke or clouds or haze. It's not clear exactly what, but they could not see it to exactly target the bomb on it. So they went to the backup target, which was Nagasaki, which was nearby. Matthew S. Waite asks, I can't help but think gun control debates mirror that of nuclear weapons proliferation. Does every country having nukes make us all safer?
No.
This is a classic question. Is the world safer if there are only a couple countries with nuclear weapons? Or would it be safer if all the countries had nuclear weapons? If there were a lot of countries with nuclear weapons, presumably they would be very hesitant to go to war with one another because the consequences would be terrible. On the other hand, if you think that the chances of either accidental nuclear war or people thinking nuclear war was winnable or terrorism, if you think the chances of those are relatively high, then more nuclear weapons in the world is a much more dangerous world because that's a world in which nuclear war is more likely to occur. It's not clear what the answer is here. Generally speaking, I'm more swayed by the arguments that it is a little bit dangerous to have lots of countries with nuclear weapons in the world. I know that's a really hot take, but I don't trust the systems or governments of these countries to
let's see. Let's pivot. It's the same, technically. This is from 4 years ago. What happens if Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz?
Nebula. Watch another full-length companion video to this one in my Modern Conflict series that explains
This is from 4 years ago.
the entire ongoing Persian Gulf crisis between Iran and the United States, which you can access by signing up for the Curiosity Stream Nebula Bundle deal for only $15 a year at curiositystream.com/real-life-lore. This is a stretch of water that's only a tad more than 30 miles wide. It's so small that you couldn't even fit Luxembourg inside of it, and yet these 30 miles make up the most important location.
I'm more surprised that Luxembourg fits in that pocket to begin with.
To understand in the entire known universe. By controlling these 30 miles, you can effectively rule the entire world, and by closing them down, you can effectively destroy the world. And this is why. The ocean spans most of our planet's surface, about 70% of it to be precise. In order to transport goods from one of Earth's many continents to another, this vast ocean that takes up 70% of the planet has to be traveled across. And in the 21st century, there are many ways to do so. Simply using an airplane to fly across in mere hours might be how you choose to do it. But airplanes are expensive, especially the more and more heavy an object it is that you're moving. So when it comes to cargo, 80% of the 21st century's global trade is still being carried out the way that it generally always has been for thousands of years now, by ship. At any given normal time, there are around 50,000 merchant vessels carrying as much as 6 million containers full of cargo and goods all across the world's oceans and between all the world's continents. These networks and streams of ships that you see moving in lines across the world's surface here are the literal arteries that power the beating heart of the 21st century global economy. And unfortunately, the world's oceans aren't very easy to navigate through. The geographic placement of the world's continents, islands, and land masses have created numerous natural choke points that these trade arteries have no other choice but to move through. And when these choke points become blocked by whatever means, they can cause a veritable stroke upon the world economy. This is exactly what happened earlier this year when one of the most important of these, the Suez Canal, was blocked for several days when a cargo ship became unexpectedly stuck in the middle, which blocked nearly $10 billion worth of global trade and caused widespread shipping and logistical delays across the entire world.
That was only
from North
7
America
days,
to
by
Australia.
the way.
But there are other strategic maritime choke points to consider across the world as well. The Panama Canal controls the flow of trade between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans across the American landmass.
Yes.
The Cape of Good Hope controls the flow of trade around the African continent. The Strait of Gibraltar controls the flow between the Mediterranean and the Atlantic. The Danish Straits between the Baltic and the North Sea. The Turkish Straits between the Mediterranean and Black Seas. And the Strait of Malacca between the Pacific and Indian Oceans. However, none of these are as important nor as dangerous as the Strait of Hormuz here, for many, many critical reasons. First among them, it's the only possible way for ships to move back and forth between the Persian Gulf in the west and the Gulf of Oman in the east, which then leads out to the greater global ocean. The Persian Gulf is particularly important for this equation because 8 countries share some of its coastline: Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Oman. And for 4 of those countries, the only maritime access they have is within the Persian Gulf, which means that the 30-mile wide Strait of Hormuz is the only possible location they can pass through in order to access the world's oceans. And if you know anything at all about the Middle East and the Gulf countries, you know that they're pretty much all completely loaded in oil. But oil is only part of what makes the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz
have to go through that
especially
both ways.
so
It is busy.
critically important. Oil is still the lifeblood of the modern world's economy. Around a third of our energy worldwide is produced by using it, and every single day, humanity consumes more than 9 million barrels of it. Oil is still by far the most common source of energy for human civilization in the 21st century. And as a non-renewable, it can't simply be produced. Oil is a resource that can only be extracted from where it already exists, and as it happens, it's not naturally found in too many parts of the world. Around the Persian Gulf Basin, across these dozens of oil fields marked in green, you can find roughly half of the entire planet's proven reserves of oil, including the single largest oil field in the world here in Saudi Arabia at Ghawar, which all on its own produces nearly 6% of the entire world's oil supply. There are
That's
dozens
crazy.
of fabulously rich oil fields here that stretch across all 8 of the countries that border the Persian Gulf. But that's not the only valuable resource that can be found here. Marked in red, you can also find roughly 40% of the world's proven reserves of natural gas. Natural gas is the world's 3rd most common source of energy, behind oil and coal, and more than a 1/5 of the world's energy is produced by using it. Qatar itself produces the highest amount of liquefied natural gas in the world. And according to British Petroleum, Iran possesses the world's largest reserves of natural gas. Between all of these combined reserves, there is more oil and natural gas in the seas of the Persian Gulf and the land immediately surrounding it than anywhere else on the planet Earth. Since 1/3 of all the world's oil production is currently taking place around the Gulf, and 1/3 of the world's energy is powered by oil, and since a further 1/5 of natural gas production takes place around the Gulf, and about 1/5 of the world's energy is powered by gas, it can therefore be said that about 15% of the entire planet's energy supply comes from around the Persian Gulf, and largely behind the Strait of Hormuz. This is why the 30 miles of water here is so insanely important. Because roughly 15% of all the energy that humanity is collectively consuming right now largely has no other choice but to pass through it. No other choke point in the 21st century's global transportation.
That's crazy to see it from this perspective. I think this is a generated image. I don't think this is an actual like satellite image, but that's crazy to see it visualized like that. I think this makes more sense to people to see it like this. I think, like, at least to me, this makes more sense. This puts it into scale, actually, you know? That's crazy. And Trump's telling people to just power through. It's not funny because it's fucked up. But, like, when you see it like this, you're like, yeah, what the fuck are you talking about?
Network can come anywhere even
I owe you a sub.
close to that level of
Do you?
critical importance. and it doesn't help that navigating through it is pretty geographically difficult. There are 8 major islands located inside of the
Ping, did
strait,
I
which
thank
must
you
be
for your
avoided by
sub?
any
That was
ships,
just 2 hours
7
ago.
of which are de facto controlled by
Ping,
Iran.
you won the Swell Grand
These
Prix with a
3
Prime boost.
strategically
I'm so
placed
sorry. Did
ones
I not
are
thank you?
contested by the United Arab Emirates, but
Sorry
the
about
Iranian
that. Thank
military
you.
has occupied them since the 1970s, so they're effectively controlled by Iran. These
Sorry
areas of
about
water
that.
highlighted are too shallow for any tanker to traverse, while these areas separately highlighted have very limited
missiles
visibility due
intact.
to the
Yep.
obstructions from islands and land. Dust storms, morning fog, and haze can all make visibility within the strait even more challenging and are particularly common events during the summer months. The UN has established a special traffic separation scheme for tankers and other ships to take while traveling through to avoid the most risk. This scheme consists of only 2 2-mile-wide shipping lanes, one for incoming and another for outgoing traffic, while each is only separated by a 2-mile-wide buffer zone.
Jesus.
The whole route travels through Iranian, Emirati, and Omani territorial waters at various times, and all of the world's largest ships must pass through them, and limited capability to avoid any unexpected obstructions that might or might not crop up. The overwhelming majority of all the oil that flows out of the Gulf travels towards East Asia, 76% of it. And most of that travels to only 5 countries. China is the world's largest importer of petroleum and the world's 2nd largest economy, and is heavily dependent on the oil flow coming out from the Strait of Hormuz, because it imports about 45% of its supply from the 8 countries around the Persian Gulf. Japan, the world's 3rd largest economy, is even more critically dependent and addicted. Infamously barren of most natural resources that are required for an industrial society, Japan has
Is Japan still the world's 3rd? It's not, right? Japan is not the 3rd largest. Is it still the 3rd largest economy?
always been forced to seek them out abroad and away from their home
It is?
islands. At times through war, while at other times through trade. Currently, they rely on trade, while oil and liquefied natural gas power more than 60% of Japan's energy needs. Nearly
Okay,
100%
apparently it's
of
now
all of it is
fourth.
imported, and nearly
Germany is
80% of that is
Germany
transported
took
by
their spot.
tankers
Japan
from
is
the
now
Persian
fourth.
Gulf and through the Strait of Hormuz. Therefore, nearly half of Japan's energy, the fuel
Germany
that
is now
powers
third,
the world's
Japan is fourth
third
now.
largest economy, has to travel through the 30 miles of water at the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, 2024
And
it
South
says.
Korea, the world's 10th largest global economy, has similar dependencies. They import nearly 70% of their oil from the Persian Gulf states. And since oil powers more than 40% of their energy needs, nearly a third of South Korea's energy supplies also have no other choice but to be delivered by tankers that are coming through the 30-mile wide Strait of Hormuz. Were the strait ever to be obstructed or shut down for very long, the world's 2nd, 3rd, and 10th largest economies would immediately come to a screeching halt. The primary source of revenue for all 8 countries around the
Pennies.
Persian Gulf would also immediately dry up, and the ripple
What
effect
I'm seeing
from
is
there
saying that
would
Japan
almost
is fourth.
certainly crash the
It's now
entire
fifth?
global economy. And in that event, there aren't
Oh,
many
damn.
options for getting the oil and natural gas around the
Rough
strait.
time for Japan.
Saudi Arabia does have a crude oil and liquefied natural gas pipeline that they can use to transport limited amounts from the rich fields around the Persian Gulf over to their ports on the Red Sea, while the United Arab Emirates has a similar pipeline that they can use to transport further limited amounts to the other side of their country on the Gulf of Oman and away from the Strait of Hormuz. But these amounts are all limited, while Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Iraq possess no such ability. At a maximum, it's believed that these pipelines can only divert about 20% of the oil coming out of the Persian Gulf around the Strait of Hormuz. And building any more oil pipeline infrastructure is expensive. All of this means that the 30-mile wide Strait of Hormuz is the most important choke point in the entire world for the global economy to function smoothly. And as a result, it's attracted considerable attention of countless empires and foreign powers from the outside.
Yeah.
Most notably, the United States. The US maintains dozens of bases across Oman, the UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Iraq. 7 of the 8 countries around the Gulf, save for Iran. This includes an Air Force base in Qatar, and the United States' 5th Fleet being further headquartered within Bahrain, which is generally composed of more than 15,000 1,000 sailors, 2 aircraft carriers, dozens of other vessels, and between them and the Air Force Base, countless aircraft. As the current largest single source for all of humanity's energy, all of this presence in the area from the United States is generally in place to ensure that the oil continues flowing. And to counter Iran's influence
How's that
over
working
on the
for
other
us?
side of the
How's that
strait,
going?
the United States and Iran have had no official diplomatic relations for more than 40 years now, since 1980. And relations between the two sides of the strait have been continuously tense. In the event of a war breaking out, Iran has made numerous threats over the years to close the Strait of Hormuz from their side over to Oman,
I don't know.
which, if successful,
I don't know if
would
it'll-
shatter
it's
the world
not
economy.
funny.
And that's
I don't-
enough of a
it's
threat
not funny.
to always make
But
America.
it's not funny, but it's like, yeah, people told you so. You know, like they won't do that. Are you sure?
Or any other foreign power, think twice. But Iran's capability to do that is realistically pretty limited. While the Iranian military is powerful, America's is a lot more powerful, and the presence of the Fifth Fleet so close by in Bahrain would almost guarantee American naval and air superiority almost immediately across the entire strait.
Yes.
Iran knows that their Navy and Air Force couldn't compete, though, so as a result, most of their focus over the past decade has
But
been
it's a
centered
little
around
funny
building
sad.
air defenses and missile batteries across the coast that could simply bombard any ships passing through. Iran also possesses a massive arsenal of thousands of maritime mines that they could theoretically quickly fill the 30-mile wide
Have they
strait
used?
with that would
Have they used mines yet? I don't think they've used mines yet. Do they actually have? Have they not even used? They haven't even broken out the mines yet. Have they used them yet, Oman? I've only heard of them blasting ships. They've tried. U.S. alleged yes. They did. They've been laying mines. Okay. This is before drone also, I think. This is 4 years ago. Damn. That's crazy.
ground all
It's been a while since I've heard about mines.
trading activity through it to a halt for who knows how long. Theoretically, Iran could probably shut the strait down, but doing so would almost certainly invoke a very sharp response from a coalition of countries who would be staunchly opposed to it, likely led by the United States and Saudi Arabia. That conflict wouldn't be very pretty, and it's come dangerously close to already happening. Just 2 years ago in 2019, the United States began a military buildup around the Persian Gulf, while simultaneously withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal and imposing new sanctions upon the country. The conflict escalated from there to the point where an Iranian major general was assassinated
Two
in a
off of
US
Odessa,
drone
mines
strike
are
at the
very
beginning
effective,
of
but they also don't
2020,
care who they
and led
hit.
from there
True.
to Iran bombarding US military bases across Iraq with rockets and artillery. It was the closest that America and Iran have ever come so far to a full-out war. And the tension still hasn't gone away. The whole conflict between the United States and Iran is an incredibly complicated
consider
and
drones. He
incredibly
doesn't consider
controversial
drones
story
much.
to tell, full of countless tragedies, misunderstandings, and millions of lives who are almost constantly hanging in the balance. Without a doubt, it is one of the most critical and fascinating conflicts of the 21st century to understand. But unfortunately, it's at the same time not acceptable for me to cover in any kind of detail on YouTube due to their terms of service. After more than 5 years of making videos on this site, I know how making videos on YouTube works, and I know that this video already has a super high chance of being demonetized and unpromoted by YouTube's algorithm simply because of the controversial content that I'm discussing here. But the moment I really start diving into the whole history of the US-Iran conflict and how war nearly broke out just last year between both sides, what's all at stake here, why it all began, how it's been fought, and how it all led to where we are today, it's a guarantee that this video will be censored and you won't ever get to see it. So instead, I created another full-length companion video in my ongoing Modern Conflict series that's the same full length as this video with all of that controversial, fascinating
Nebula?
information included and uploaded.
Just promoting it for Nebula. Let's see. Same. How the Iran war is becoming a world war. Let's see. Boop.
This is Little Boy,
Little boy.
the atomic bomb that devastated Hiroshima. This is
Bye.
the H-bomb Castle Bravo,
Literal doom
the most
scrolling.
powerful nuclear weapon the United States has ever detonated. And this is RDS-220, also known as Tsar Bomba, the emperor of all bombs.
We're stupid.
It was built in the Soviet Union.
Oh, Soviets. That's
The
not
year
us.
It was called Big Ivan.
That's not
Russia
us.
recently declassified
I was like,
secret
God, we're
footage of
stupid.
its 1961 detonation.
Одна. Ноль.
It wasn't us. That one wasn't us. That's insane.
At 50 megatons, Tsar Bomba is the largest nuclear weapon ever detonated. It yielded the most powerful human-made explosion in history, about 3,800 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
Jesus.
If dropped over a major city, the consequences would be unimaginable. And if it weren't for a last-minute decision, it would have been twice as powerful, and perhaps twice as catastrophic. The lead physicist who engineered it was so unsettled by his creation that he devoted the rest of his life to campaigning against the nuclear arms race. This is the surprisingly unknown, terrifying story of Tsar Bomba. It's the end of the 50s.
Why is this
The
aspect
Soviets and the
ratio?
Americans are neck
I don't
and
know
neck
why it's
in the
this
nuclear
aspect
arms
ratio,
race.
chat.
But the Americans are winning, and Nikita Khrushchev, leader of the Soviet Union, knows it. Tensions between the two superpowers have cooled down a bit in recent years. Khrushchev and US President Eisenhower have recently met, and both expressed
Yeah,
the
we've been on a
desire
doomsday
more
for a
harmony.
minute, Temple.
In 1958, they both agreed to a voluntary test ban moratorium on nuclear
Science
weapons.
Sunday came early.
Worldwide, many are hopeful that a peaceful coexistence is on the horizon. In May of 1960, the Soviet Union and the United States are scheduled to meet in Paris for a summit. One of the main points on the agenda is disarmament. They hope to formalize a test ban treaty of nuclear weapons. Both leaders, and the world at large, are well aware of how existentially dangerous nuclear warfare is. But just a few days before the summit, it all goes south. Tensions bubble to a rolling boil when an American spy plane is shot down from deep within Soviet territory. The Americans claim that it was just a weather plane that's been blown off course, but the Soviets are able to present evidence that the plane was indeed used for espionage. The captured pilot admits he works for the CIA. The Americans' lie turns into a PR disaster for the Eisenhower administration.
Damn.
Khrushchev opens the Paris summit with an enraged rebuke of the United States. He demands an apology from Eisenhower. The US president refuses, and Khrushchev storms out. No treaty is signed. Khrushchev thinks he needs to show the world how tough and formidable the Soviet Union is. He's famously prickly, impulsive, and aggressive. A few years ago, he told Western powers, "History is on our side. We will bury you." Now is the time to put his money where his mouth is. Because of the temporary ban on testing, innovation efforts on both sides of the arms race have slowed. They're both focused on steadily growing their supply, building more bombs instead of developing new tech. Not all breakthroughs have to be destructive. Sometimes technology is being developed to help us, like Odoo's all-in-one platform, giving you everything you need to manage your own business. For
Sorry.
example, Odoo offers a great website build site for free. In 1961, the Americans inaugurate John F. Kennedy as their new president. Khrushchev has no respect for him. He sees him as young, inexperienced, and weak.
I did hear him bring up Pearl Harbor on a radio thing because I was listening to the radio on the way back while I was driving today. And they were apparently upset that they weren't alerted to some of the, what's it called? Some of the Iran strikes and such. They were like, oh, you want to talk to me about warning? Like you warned us about Pearl Harbor? That's the audio I heard from him.
This might be the perfect moment to show the world what the Soviet Union is capable of. So he summoned scientists from Artemis 16, the Soviet Los Alamos, to to the Kremlin. He tells them it's time to break the test ban moratorium and start testing nukes again. One of these scientists is Andrei Sakharov. He's a star physicist for the Soviet effort. He led the creation of a staged thermonuclear weapon, independently of any intelligence gathered from the Americans. He's called the father of the Soviet hydrogen bomb. But Sakharov has become uneasy with his role in the arms race. He's found that even testing the weapons is catastrophically lethal, even if no human is within the blast radius. He has calculated that for every megaton of nuclear weapons detonated, there would be over 6,600 premature deaths worldwide due to the cancers and genetic abnormalities produced by the radioactivity. Even if these deaths occur very gradually, over thousands of years, his conscience still can't take it. So he tells Khrushchev that it's unnecessary to test anymore. Isn't it enough to have built the bombs and only use them in an absolute last resort scenario? They already know their tech is good. Khrushchev is furious. Sakharov, don't try to tell us what to do or how to behave. We understand politics. I'd be a jellyfish and not chairman of the Council of Ministers if I listened to people like Sakharov. Khrushchev demands that the scientists make suggestions. What kind of bombs should they develop? There's not a lot of new ideas ready to be tested due to the recent focus on stockpiling over innovating. So someone simply suggests going bigger. Why not 100 megatons? Khrushchev loves the idea and latches onto it. 100 megatons is an absurdly high number. Up until that point, the most powerful bomb ever detonated was Castle Bravo, a 15 megaton bomb the Americans tested in 1954. The total blast power expended in all of World War II is 3 megatons, and that includes the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Previous plans to test bombs in this megaton range have been halted because the effects of such a large weapon were unknowable. Scientists weren't able to reliably predict meteorological conditions at the time, which would affect this.
Jordan filed? Not Jesse. Oh, God. I low-key knew this was going to happen. Okay, pause. So, hi. Jesse and Jordan. Jesse had an emotional affair. They were working through it, but it was very clear she wanted to leave him, including this past season, she pulled up her prenup. She was afraid to leave him because they had a prenup, but they seemingly never had a witness sign it, so it could be null and void. She has her own business, and she knows that Jordan is vindictive. I wouldn't marry someone like that, but that's just me, and you don't know who you're divorcing. The person you divorce is not who you marry. So I was worried that she was going to hold off divorcing him or filing because of that. Sure enough, now Jordan has filed. Dear Lord. He looks like an Oompa Loompa. Like a Munchkin Land guy. He's got the... God, someone compared... Who did they compare him to? Lollipop Guild. That's what they said he looked like. Sorry, wrong thing.
Severity of the radioactive fallout and how far the particles could travel. For all they know, such an enormous blast could engulf Moscow in a cloud of poisonous radiation. What could even be gained from testing 100 megatons? For Khrushchev, it's obvious. The Soviet Union would assert its dominance. Let the 100 megaton bomb hang over the capitalists like a sword of Damocles. And so the race to build the biggest, deadliest bomb the world will ever see is underway. Sakharov is still uneasy about the risks of testing nuclear weapons, but he's the best of the best, so he ends up leading the team of physicists. He hopes that this, at least, will be the last atmospheric test ever required.
This animation style is effective, but it's very unsettling. It's very Night of the Mannequins.
Maybe from this one absurdly big blast, the Soviet Union would learn what they need to know and move on. That, unfortunately, would not be the case. The project's timeline is grueling. Khrushchev insists that from initial conception to detonation, the scientists get exactly 16 weeks. So Sakharov's team is building while still designing. In just 4 months, they whip out a design for an entirely untested yield range. They build the bomb, they construct the fissionable and fusionable materials into the correct shapes, and formulate a plan for an allegedly safe test.
Allegedly.
They hope for the best. The team is forced to skip crucial parts of the design process. There isn't even time for mathematical analysis. Instead, they're working with approximations. Doubts start to creep in. Will it even work? And how dangerous is this really? Either way,
The
they're
idea
about
that
to
they're all doing this in button-ups and like open lab coats, I know that's definitely not what they were wearing, but this is stressing me out.
find out.
We're talking about
In
Doomsday
October
Moonrise.
1961, Khrushchev formally announces to the world that the Soviets are retreating from the test ban agreement. He cites US aggression as the reason. He hints his scientists are developing bombs in the megaton range. Now that the world knows what Sakharov's team is up to, the pressure is on for the physicists to deliver a viable weapon. Otherwise, the whole point, propaganda value, would be lost.
Dear
The
God.
world reacts with fear, outrage, and protest. In response, the Americans abandon the test ban moratorium as well and start vigorously testing nukes again
course they did.
themselves. The Kennedy administration denounces the Tsar Bomba as pointless terrorism, nothing but a propaganda weapon. But recently declassified documents indicate that Kennedy's administration considered emulating it, all while denouncing it publicly. The UN appealed to the Soviets to cancel the plan, but Khrushchev pushes forward. At the end of October, Tsar Bomba is ready. It is in and of itself enormous. A weapon with 100 megaton explosive power needs a lot of uranium and fission fuel, so Big Ivan is roughly the size of a school bus, 8 meters long and weighs 25 tons. The bomb is so bulky that it needs its own specially modified plane to deliver the payload. It doesn't really make sense to make bombs this big. It's just not strategic. If actually used in battle, Tsar Bomba would be easy to spot lumbering through the sky.
Dude, I'm just always
and could be
tired right
quickly
now.
shot down. And it's too bulky to deliver via
I drove
missile.
a lot today.
In the decades since Tsar Bomba, the nuclear weapons
Sitting in
states have
traffic
focused on
takes it out of
developing
me.
smaller warheads. These are far easier to deploy. The largest nuclear weapon in the US arsenal today is about 40 times less powerful than Tsar Bomba. Even in 1961, it was generally understood that bigger isn't necessarily better. That's because explosive power doesn't correspond one-to-one with blast damage. Explosions scale at the cubic root, not linearly. So while a 100 megaton bomb indeed releases 10 times more energy than a 10 megaton bomb, it will only damage about twice as much area. American newspapers at the time characterized Khrushchev's experiments as not only horrifying, but idiotic, pointing out that if 5 weapons at 5 megatons each are detonated, they will cause damage to far more area than a 150 megaton super bomb. And these smaller bombs are far easier to deliver. But actual use is not the point of Tsar Bomba. It wasn't built for war.
Doom School
It was
Thursday,
built
my
for
dude.
glory. It's meant to make the world tremble at the thought of Soviet power. It's a city destroyer, to be used only as an absolute last resort. The blast damage radius could be roughly calculated. The remote Arctic island, Novaya Zemlya, is chosen as a test site. It's one of the main nuclear test sites of the Soviet Union because they figure it's far enough away to not bother any humans. But radioactive fallout is more difficult to predict. It can vary considerably with weather conditions and weapon design. Scientists have been surprised before. The 1954 Castle Bravo test produced far more radioactivity than anticipated, requiring evacuation of the islands downwind from the test site. What is known at the time is that thermal radiation scales better than blast damage in relation to explosive power, meaning a bigger blast generally means more radiation.
Dear God.
Sakharov can't stop thinking about all the lives it will take. He's taking great care to make the Tsar Bomba as clean as can be. It's designed to minimize the release of radioactive fallout as much as possible. But still, even a relatively clean nuke like Tsar Bomba isn't safe. According to his calculations, the test of one clean 100 megaton weapon will release enough radiation that, over time, will cause 660,000 premature deaths. Deaths he would be partially responsible for. So he makes one last-minute, drastic change in design. Right before the weapon test, he suggests using an inert substance like lead instead of uranium-238. This will cut the blast yield down from 100 to 50 megatons. Khrushchev agrees. He's facing a lot of backlash, so scaling back might be politically smart. As long as the triggering device works
I
and the
know,
bomb
dude,
goes
but
off,
I live in
the
LA.
world will still know
Don't have a lot of
Tsar Bomba
options.
is capable of detonating 100 megatons if the Soviets ever feel they need to.
And it's
in the
also
future.
it was
Just
100
in
degrees
case they
today,
ever need to take out
according
New
to my
York City
car.
or Los Angeles all in one go.
LA is so big. LA is such a big city. Like, it's one of the reasons that the Olympics in 2028 is going to be like insane here. It's so big that when they use it as a scale of like, yeah, it'll take out Los Angeles, I'm like, fuck. Because it's so much ground to cover to take out Los Angeles.
The pilot carrying Big Ivan soars to 10 kilometers above the archipelago Novaya Zemlya. A smaller plane flies alongside him, ready to film the blast and monitor the fallout. The engineers believe the crew only has a 50% chance of survival. Big Ivan is designed to detonate mid-air. To give the crew even a chance of escape, the bomb is outfitted with a massive parachute meant to slow the bomb's descent. It should be enough time, fingers crossed. At 11:32, Moscow time, from 4,000 meters above the ground, the bombardier drops the bomb. What exactly makes Tsar Bomba so powerful is still, partially, a mystery. Russia continues to guard that secret. What we do know is that its design is most likely different from other thermonuclear weapons. Normally, a thermonuclear weapon or hydrogen bomb consists of two stages.
Simplified visualization.
It's a nuclear
you guys
bomb
can't see
within a
the
nuclear
wording
bomb.
because I'm covering it.
The first
but-
stage uses nuclear fission, or splitting atoms to produce immense heat and pressure. This triggers the second stage, nuclear fusion, or combining atoms, where far more energy is unleashed. Fusion of hydrogen isotopes under extreme temperatures releases an incredibly powerful explosion, far stronger than a single-stage atomic bomb, like the one dropped on Hiroshima. The Tsar Bomba, however, is a three-stage hydrogen bomb with an unusual triggering mechanism. What sets it apart is that it most likely uses two near-simultaneous primary triggers to ignite the third stage more evenly and symmetrically, maximizing its explosive power. While other three-stage thermonuclear weapons exist, the innovative use of synchronized primary triggers is unusual, if not unique. It's long been considered extremely difficult to achieve synchronization of primaries, but somehow Sakharov's team managed. When you detonate a thermonuclear weapon, you force something into existence unlike anything else on Earth. The first fraction of a millisecond is just a luminous flash. It's silent. Light has no sound. But don't look at it directly. It could cause blindness from more than 80 kilometers away. Tsar Bomba's flash is seen from 1,000 kilometers, or 630 miles away. It lasts for over a minute, far longer than any other nuclear flash before or since. Then, tremendous heat. The light superheats the air to 100 million degrees Celsius. That's 4 to 5 times hotter than the center of the sun. A high-pressure fireball erupts violently and expands at several million kilometers per hour. What follows is a thunderous blast. It's likely the loudest human-made sound in history. After about 10 seconds, Tsar Bomba's bright orange fireball grows to a radius of nearly 5 kilometers. The fireball engulfs everything in its wake. The ice-covered archipelago is now red and scorched. Anything in the ring of absolute destruction, 35 kilometers, is vaporized. Ground Zero is completely leveled. Nothing. No trees, no buildings, no rocks remain. 35 seconds pass. The fireball balloons above the Earth, and the iconic mushroom cloud emerges, presiding over the hell unleashed below. It's 64
Presiding
kilometers above
over
Earth,
the hell
7 times higher than Mount
unleashed
Everest,
below.
soaring above the stratosphere
Crazy.
and piercing the mesosphere.
That's the size of the eye. Oh god, sorry. That visualization of the mushroom cloud compared to the actual island
This
is crazy.
creates a shockwave felt all around the world,
Jesus.
all the way in New Zealand. It encircles the globe not once, not twice,
That's
but 3
crazy.
times. Tsar Bomba's shockwave catches up with the planes that are 115 kilometers from the point of detonation. They drop nearly a kilometer and are nearly downed,
Jesus.
but the pilots manage to recover control and survive. 55 kilometers away from Ground
Look
Zero,
at the size
all
of the
buildings
mushroom
in the
cloud
abandoned village of
to the-
Severny are completely
Jesus.
destroyed. 1,148
That's
kilometers
insane.
away in Soviet territories, houses collapse and radio communications fail. Windows shatter as far away as Finland.
Holy shit.
But Big Ivan's detonation doesn't kill anyone directly.
Good.
If Tsar Bomba were dropped on a city as large as New York or Washington, D.C., it would be instantly demolished.
That's really bad.
Concrete would explode to vanish without a trace. Metal would evaporate. Tsar Bomba's fireball never made contact with the ground, and so its radioactive fallout was relatively small compared with its yield. It is considered one of the cleanest nukes ever dropped.
Jesus.
Still, its radioactivity was
Look
caught
at
in the
that. That's
stratosphere and
insane.
encircled the Earth for years, dispersing all across the globe. In 2018, Russian scientists found significantly high levels of radiation trapped in nearby glaciers.
That's
Those glaciers
crazy.
are melting at record speed into the Barents Sea, a sea that yields up to 4.5 million tons of fish per year for human consumption. Glaciers that were previously sinks of atmospheric contaminants are now becoming secondary sources of radioactive fallout, which environmentalists predict.
Oh, I never thought about that. Damn. Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. I'm sure it's fine.
will become increasingly relevant in the coming decades.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
Due to Tsar Bomba and 120 other nuclear detonations at Novaya Zemlya, indigenous populations living nearby have been exposed to significantly high radiation levels.
Damn.
They experience higher levels of chromosomal diseases and birth defects than other populations in Russia, facts that only emerged later because the Soviet Union covered up incidents of radiation sickness. Some locals call it the archipelago of death.
Damn.
Just after detonation, the Tsar Bomba test is condemned internationally and domestically. Sakharov emerges as a vocal critic of nuclear testing and of Soviet leadership. He campaigns vigorously for an end to atmospheric testing. For his efforts, he receives the Nobel Peace Prize in 1975. The Kremlin permits him from leaving the Soviet Union to receive the award. In response to public pressure, the United States and the Soviet Union signed the Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in 1963, which prohibits atmospheric testing. Nowadays, people often say that if Tsar Bomba was good for anything at all, it would be for catalyzing this treaty. When brought up, it's often dismissed both in the United States and the former Soviet Union as a reckless political stunt, a weapon too impractical and dangerous to ever be attempted by anyone else. But Khrushchev is hardly the only person in history intent on creating the biggest blast possible. Recently declassified files from the United States indicate that plans had been underway to build much, much bigger bombs. In the 1950s, Edward Teller fathered the U.S. hydrogen
I have nothing useful to add other than those are some eyebrows.
bomb, was obsessed with creating the biggest bang possible. He and his team were working on two secret projects called Gnomon and Sundial.
I don't think Sparkly's in
Gnomon
chat.
would be a 1,000 megaton bomb to set off Sundial, a 10,000 megaton bomb. That's 10 billion tons of TNT, 670,000 times the power of Little Boy dropped on Hiroshima. At least enough to burn all of France, and perhaps much worse still.
All of France
nothing
is
close to that scale has
crazy.
been tested, and we don't know if the traditional laws will apply at that level. When Teller first proposed Sundial at a secret meeting in Los Alamos, most of the scientists present expressed horror.
Yeah.
Such an enormous blast could poison the entire planet. Unbothered, Teller and his team continued to build Gnomon, and even planned to test
The
it.
most beautiful
And
bomb.
when the U.S. military
we
learned
have
about the
it.
project, there was considerable enthusiasm for realizing Sundial. But thankfully, the test never occurred.
Thank God. Okay, cool. No more of that. Let's find something more light, like horrifying camping videos or something. Do you guys want to see Caesar get murked? Do you guys want to see Caesar get murked? I could watch Caesar get murked. We just had the Ides of March. Let's watch Caesar get murked. Made by humans. Yay, we love to see it.
It's the 15th of March, 44 BC, in Rome. The most powerful.
Has anyone done the Ides of March with Legos? If they haven't, that's an easy 10 million view video. An accurate depiction of the Ides of March, but with Lego figures, would get a bajillion views if you did it in stop motion. I'm just saying.
Powerful man in the Roman Republic, the dictator Julius Caesar, walks through the doors of the Curia of Pompey, the temporary gathering point for the Roman Senate's meetings. The usual venue, the Roman Forum, a kilometre to the southeast, is undergoing renovations to build a new Senate house in Caesar's name, and is unavailable. The Curia meaning meeting place in Latin, is located at the eastern point of a large open courtyard known as the Portico of Pompey. Compared to the Forum, it's rather secluded. It has no direct access to the side streets of Rome,
Some melee.
and the only exits lead directly onto the Portico. Today, this area is occupied by a large group of armed gladiators who are loitering near the Curia entrance, trying to stay inconspicuous.
Loitering.
Inside the Curia, senators are nervously milling about. They watch as Caesar takes a seat on his golden ceremonial chair.
That was fun music.
But first, this
Feels
video
bad
is
to dance.
sponsored by Odoo. This
Sorry.
is a toga, by the way. I'm doing the...
So sorry, I can't
To
watch
understand Caesar's
So
death,
sorry.
we have to understand how he got here.
that. Okay.
In the eyes of Rome's political elite, Caesar had grown too powerful. Over the course of an almost 40-year career, he reached Rome's highest public office, consul. He conquered all of modern-day France and Belgium and parts of Switzerland, Germany, and the Netherlands. By all accounts, he was a military genius, and charismatic too. His armies, comprised of Roman legions, became loyal to him and only him. His many victories with them made him fabulously wealthy. Finally, he had a habit of pandering to the masses, opposing unpopular policies and presenting himself as a man of the people. He became very popular, perhaps too popular. In 49 BC, fearing Caesar was becoming larger
Could you
than
have the
Rome,
years off,
the
Templeton?
Senate, alongside his chief rival, Pompey the Great, moved against him.
Pompey the Great.
They attempted to recall him from his campaign in Gaul and strip him of his military command. A command which gave him legal immunity under Roman law.
That's crazy.
Sensing that his enemies wished to prosecute him and curb his power on his return to the city, Caesar made a fateful decision. With a legion of soldiers in tow, he crossed the Rubicon River in northern Italy. The river marked the border between the Roman heartland and its other provinces, and by Roman law, all returning generals had to disband their armies and lay down their arms before crossing it, as to avoid internal conflicts. By deliberately ignoring this, Caesar started a civil war, one that would last 4 years and span the entire republic. In March of 45 BC, he would win that civil war, having defeated Pompey the Great, the only man that could rival him.
The
in
Great, the
influence.
defeated is crazy.
This made him the undisputed most powerful man in
Pompey
Rome.
the defeated
The
is
Senate, an
crazy.
institution that once sought to reduce his power and influence, elected him to the consulship a further 3 times.
Damn.
And finally, in February of 44 BC, granted him the title of dictator for life.
That's usually where things go south.
For a time before the foundation of the Roman Republic,
HBO's Rome? I gotta
had
write it
been
down.
ruled by kings. Tyrannical, cruel kings. When the last monarch, Tarquin the Proud, was overthrown around 509 BC, the Roman people, particularly the conservative aristocracy that would end up forming most of the Senate, vowed that no king should rule Rome again. It now seemed that Caesar fancied himself a king.
I mean, you're calling
He began
dude
wearing
dictator for life.
opulent
so.
royal garbs and constructing statues of himself in public. His allies called for extravagant celebrations in his honor and proposed and later succeeded in changing the month of Quintilis, the month he was born, to Julius. He installed in the Senate
And now
a
we
golden
have
chair
July.
designed specifically for him, the chair upon which he sits today. Caesar had grown too powerful, and he was flaunting it. He threatened the continued existence of the Republic. If defeating him on the battlefield was impossible, his foes would have to find another way to bring him down.
Murder.
The men who conspired to kill Caesar, a group of about 60, are diverse in their backgrounds. A few are former allies who felt their loyalty to him.
When the plans make it out of the group chat. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be. This is history, so I'm gonna be a bit more of an asshole.
Him had not been sufficiently rewarded. Some are remnants of the Pompeian faction, the group that fought Caesar during the civil war under Pompey the Great, a group he, perhaps foolishly, pardoned. A handful simply oppose his accumulation of power out of principle, fearing he would destroy the state's republican values. Most, however, are members of the conservative aristocracy, who profit greatly from Rome's republican form of government as they monopolize the Senate and thus oppose Caesar's centralization of power. These men have been meeting in secret for months to hatch a plan to kill him. They considered assassinating him in public on a street in Rome known as the Via Sacra.
Via Sacra.
This was probably
The
abandoned
sacred street.
because the venue was too public.
Can I be honest? That would have been actually so cunty to get murdered on the sacred street. Saw direct democracy as mob rule, but they didn't see anything with a representative republic after this guy becomes a dictator and he gets overthrown by the people. Really? Yeah.
Any ally of Caesar's, if they were nearby, could simply intervene. Caesar had no bodyguards on payroll while in the city, but he was known to surround himself with some particularly intimidating friends to compensate. Another questionable idea was flinging him from a bridge and placing a number of armed men below it to ensure the fall would be fatal.
An Alpine
They
divorce
also
of Caesar.
considered striking while he was at a gladiator show, as they could hide the assassins in plain sight, posing as gladiators.
Fair.
Ultimately, though, a Senate session on the 15th of March was selected to be the best time to strike. Soon after this date, Caesar would be outside of the city on a military campaign to defeat the Dacians and the Parthian Empire to Rome's east, making it far more difficult for them to reach him and allowing him to accumulate even more glory, prestige, and power. Choosing a Senate meeting made sense, too. All those present were sure to be unarmed, as it was generally prohibited to bring weapons into the Senate House, making resistance unlikely. Most of the Senate were indeed loyal to Caesar, but even his closest allies would think twice to spring to his defense when faced with a blade.
Wow.
Additionally, in a closed Senate meeting, Caesar could be
Not
dealt
ride
with
or dies, I
more
see.
subtly, away from the prying eyes and ears of the public and Caesar's informal protection. So,
I just spilled water
on the day
on my
of the
lap.
15th, daggers are secretly brought into the Curia of Pompey in wooden boxes, usually used to carry writing tablets for
Brilliant, Loki.
Before Caesar's arrival, members of the conspiracy retrieve the blades and conceal them underneath their togas. Outside the building, the conspirators deploy a group of armed gladiators to cover the Curia's exits,
See all the ruins, and I
ensuring
learned
that
about
Caesar
some of
won't
them in
get
my
far
undergrad classes.
should he try to escape. They are owned
So there
by
you
the
can
senator
see it. Rome kind of
Decimus
sucks, though.
Brutus,
Honestly, Jesus.
a man that Caesar considers to be a close friend and ally, a man named second in his will,
Brutus.
a man that Caesar trusts. Caesar would not question the presence of the gladiators, knowing them to be Decimus's. Finally, when Caesar arrives with his co-consul Mark Antony, a senator by the name of Gaius Trebonius pulls him aside and begins to speak with him. Antony is a big, brawny man, and his loyalty to Caesar is without question. The conspiracy thought it wise to take him out of the equation and ensure he did not intervene in Caesar's defense. Though the conspirators originally considered murdering the both of them together, they thought the optics of killing Caesar alone would be better. It would appear like the just killing of a tyrant, and not an arbitrary massacre. The stage is now set. All that remains is for the signal to be given. That signal is Senator Tillius Cimber.
Kimba.
As he marches towards the dictator, he exclaims loudly that Caesar should pardon his brother and return him from exile. Suddenly, dozens of other senators rise from their seats, and they too start approaching Caesar, shouting words of support for Cimber's request. The senators circle him like sharks in the water, growing ever closer, until Cimber thrusts out his fist and tears Caesar's toga down, revealing the tunic underneath. Startled, Caesar recoils and shouts. Moments later, the senator Publius Casca strikes the first blow from behind, with a dagger thrust that grazes Caesar's shoulder. He rises.
How accurate do we have it? Like that this is the actual accounting is my question. Like,
in shock, twirls around
Who snitched?
and allegedly stabs Casca with a pen in retaliation. But alas, the pen is not mightier than the sword. In seconds, Caesar becomes enveloped by a shroud of togas and collapses under a hail of daggers. 2 Caesar loyalists try to break through to defend him, but they are pushed back.
damn.
Marcus Brutus, a leading conspirator and former Pompeian, stabs Caesar in the groin amid the
One
frenzy.
blow in the
A
groin.
truly humiliating blow.
It's from Plutarch.
After inflicting 23 stab wounds, the crowd of assassins stand back and admire their work.
Damn.
The would-be king, the tyrant, is dead. In a twist of irony, Caesar would bleed out beneath a statue of his former Civil War rival, Pompey the Great. A statue he had refused to tear down.
Only Ring camera footage.
Caesar should have seen it coming. According to classical sources, a month before his demise in February of 44 BC, he visited a fortune teller by the name of Spurinna. He brought to her an animal to be sacrificed. And it is said that on the altar she could not find its heart in its chest cavity. Seeing this as a bad omen, she warned Caesar his life was in danger. The next day, when he returned again with a different sacrifice, she was unable to find part of its liver. From the entrails of the animal, she divined that Caesar would come to great harm on the Ides of March, otherwise known as the 15th, the midpoint of the month. But that wasn't all. The Roman historian Plutarch tells us that on the day before the 15th, Caesar and a fellow senator began discussing the best way to die. To which Caesar responded, quote, "A death which is unexpected." Ominously, later
have
that
heard
evening,
that.
when he and his wife Calpurnia were asleep, the windows and doors of their bedchamber flew open simultaneously, rousing Caesar from his slumber. His wife was yet asleep, yet she tossed and turned, muttering something under her breath. The next morning, upon waking up, she begged Caesar not to attend the Senate meeting, for she had dreamt their house had collapsed and seen visions of her holding Caesar's bloodied, lifeless corpse.
I mean, his reign collapsed.
Caesar was, by Roman standards, not particularly superstitious, but the mounting signs
Yeah, this
were
is a
enough
lot,
to put
dude.
even him at unease.
This is a lot.
To be sure, he summoned his own seers and had them conduct sacrificial rituals. All of them yielded bad omens. That was enough for him to postpone the Senate meeting, resolving not to attend. So why, in the end, did he end up going? Well, his old friend, Decimus Brutus, convinced him on the morning of the Senate meeting to ignore the omens and attend anyway. He appealed to Caesar's ego. Would it not appear improper and above all ridiculous or cowardly if Caesar did not show his face at a session he summoned merely on the grounds of superstition? What would that sort of behavior do to his reputation? So
Every single tyrant is exactly the fucking same. I'm so sorry. Like, you can't tell me that that wouldn't work on most of the shitheads that are in office right now in positions of power. Like, you can't. That would work. Oh, come on. Do you want them to think you're weak? What do you have to be worried about? You're you.
he went. And on his way to the Curia of Pompey, he was stopped by a man on the street. The man handed him a scroll and urged him to read it immediately, claiming it concerned him. Reports tell us that this scroll supposedly contained details of the plot against him.
Bro.
For one reason or another, Caesar did not read it and walked directly into the lion's den.
At that point, it's cosmic. I'm so sorry you meant to die. Like, at that point, if you can't get out of your own way, with all the warnings of people trying to save you and help you. Like everything else, sure, if you're not superstitious, this is someone actively being like, you need to read this right now. You need to read it. And he doesn't do it. Like, that's one of those, like, canon moments in history. Like, yeah, you kind of had to go. That or you made sure you had to go, you know? Damn.
Caesar's death would lead to a power vacuum and civil war that determined the fate of the Republic. Caesar's adoptive son, Octavian, and his former consul, Mark Antony, would form an alliance with one of Caesar's most trusted generals, Marcus Lepidus. Together, they would hunt down the men that murdered Caesar and crush all who opposed their rule, leading ultimately to the fall of the Republic and the rise of a hereditary monarchy under the Roman Empire. Octavian would become emperor, and he would not make his father's mistakes. Caesar pardoned many of his enemies, even promoted them, and gave them honors. Where others would have destroyed every trace of Pompey, Caesar elected to keep his statues up as a show of grace. His mercy might have killed him, and it might mean that the last thing that Caesar ever saw while he was dying in a pool of his own blood was a statue.
Yeah, no, that's... there's something... it's so poetic. Like, you're seeing the faces of people that you trusted, people that you pardoned, you granted mercy, and then as you were dying in a pool of your own blood, you may have seen the statue of your predecessor that you allowed to be that you allowed to sit behind you. Immensely poetic. Imagine dying in sandals. Gross. Is crazy.
Staring
Hi,
down at
Bubbies.
him mockingly.
Mockingly.
Caesar treated his foes too kindly and flaunted his power too brazenly, making him a man that people hated, not necessarily a man that they feared. In the words of the historian John Balston, if an authoritarian government was to be established successfully in the Republic's place, it must not be, like Caesar's, an inconsiderate, careless and frank authoritarianism. It must wear a Republican mask, however false.
Damn. Ka-chow. Okay. Let's see. How are we on time? Oh, we're almost at 3 hours. That's fine. Let's see. Hermes. What are you doing? Okay, do you want to do one Appalachia video? Some Air Force Ones. All right, we'll end it here. We may have seen this already, but I don't think we have.
Just watch Wilderness Whispers.
I don't think we've seen this one already. We'll see. We might have to change it to a different one.
Whispers, the scariest channel on YouTube.
My favorite open emperors were the ones that were all killed in like a few weeks, 4 in a year. Solid government.
If you hear something in the woods, no, you didn't. If you see something moving, no, you didn't.
Mood.
If your name gets called from the dark, no, it didn't. If something asks you to follow it, you don't. If you find something that looks like a person, but feels wrong, it ain't. And if you feel like the woods are watching you, they are. These are the things everyone warns you about before going into the Appalachian Mountains. And maybe that's also what draws people there. A couple, both in love with hiking and exploring,
I mean,
were fascinated by...
I'm not saying that they're going to turn on him. I think Gnome being fired while she was literally giving a statement after testimony, I think that shook some of these people, at least the women in his circle. It'll be interesting to see who else. That being said, I do think that Rubio will be leading the charge if something of this vein befalls Trump.
By the stories and decided to spend a few nights in a cabin deep in the Appalachian forest.
Well,
At
make sure he
first,
wears sandals.
everything seemed calm and normal, quiet, peaceful, just the forest all around. But that all changed around 2 a.m. when they were suddenly woken by loud, strange noises outside. And let me tell you, those sounds, they're the kind that will make your blood run cold.
All right. It doesn't sound quite human. It's just, you know how it's like a tad off? No, it doesn't sound like kids. It sounds like adults, but it doesn't sound quite human. I admit, I think there's some fuck shit in the Appalachians. That's my personal opinion. I think the same way I think that, like, you know, Asian ghosts in Asia, I think those are more real than like the ones we have here. But I do believe there's some fuck shit in Appalachia, you know? So these videos, I'm more like, you know.
Mike. A woman was screaming desperately a word in Spanish that means help. But if you think that was unsettling, what happens next is truly disturbing.
Dogging is not much a thing here in the US. That sounds like someone else hitting a pan to get the noise to stop. It doesn't sound like gunshots.
Gunshots rang out, and then silence.
I don't think that was gunshots.
A couple,
I don't think that was gunshots. I think that was someone hitting a pan to break up the noise.
following the local folklore, didn't call the police thinking it was just the kind of strange sounds people talked about. But to me, this was something entirely different.
No?
That was a woman clearly in need of help, probably trapped in an abusive situation, and she may have even been shot. It's unsettling. This is exactly why I think that sometimes stories can do more harm than good. Ignoring a real emergency just because the stories say so can cost someone.
The audio of what that person was yelling and then that man was yelling after was repeating itself, and not in a like, please help me right now. It was like a weird repetitive like tone. I don't think that was, it was sounded less than human. No, it was saying words, real internet person. It was saying words. Like that was saying stuff, and there was two different voices, but it was not quite human sounding. Almost sounded like a recording more than anything.
On what actually happened, but I hope that after they shared this and read the comments, they did the right thing. Now, I want to know what you think. Was it right for them to listen to the stories, or should they have called the police immediately? Explore World is a channel run by a group of guys who love exploring abandoned places and sharing their adventures on YouTube.
Japanese news outlets were doing a live translation of the press conference, and when Trump dropped the Pearl Harbor joke, the translators were audibly lost for words and paused for a few seconds in disbelief.
In this video, they decided to check out an old naval base hidden deep in the forest, but things got way creepy.
Trump apparently, I heard that it was Trump made a comment about Japan being upset that they were not alerted to the military action against Iran, because Japan is technically one of our allies, not technically they are. And Trump said, oh, you want to talk about a heads up? You want to talk about a warning? Did you give us a warning for Pearl Harbor? Like laughing.
Than they expected. They hacked their
Didn't
way
go
through
well.
thick vegetation, pushed past tangled branches, and finally reached the base. And let me tell you, it was creepy.
Keep your head down, keep your head down. I'm crawling.
The thorns on the branch by their heads.
There's bats in there.
Oh, I'm not going in there for bats. I don't need it.
There's bats flying everywhere.
Oh, they will bite you. They feel like they're
Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Do you want to see the video? I heard the audio recording on the radio. I didn't see the video. I heard him say it.
This one's video.
This is a building that the people tried to burn down a while ago.
Imagine me, it's so stupid to think you can burn down brick. Probably a good, what do you say, Chris, like 30 building? Well,
This is huge. Is this a
Probably up the
house?
stairs.
Or a factory, they said.
The stairs are gonna fall down on you.
After checking out the outside for a bit, they finally went inside.
Oh, it's
And
definitely
that's
like a
when
building
things really changed. The place went from eerie to straight up scary. Take a look.
Keep going, keep going. This looks so weird. Looks like a cave in over there.
what the heck is that?
Someone living in there, I'm assuming?
You guys got that on video?
Someone's living in there.
What
This
was
is,
it?
again.
Something like literally got thrown.
Yeah, dude, I'm out.
Something got thrown. You'll probably see it on video. Well, obviously,
Why would they throw something? Why would they undo it?
obviously somebody
What do you
wants to.
Yeah.
Dude, there's 4 of us. Who's gonna mess with us? If someone was gonna beat us up, they would come out. They wouldn't throw something at us like that.
Draft dodger. Yep.
Wow.
They go back inside?
At first, they had no clue what it was, but after a moment, they figured it was either someone trying to prank them or an animal startled by their presence. The animal theory seemed more likely, so they calmed down and carried on with their exploration.
Holy.
The giant penises everywhere is really
It's
funny.
fully caved in there.
Jeez.
Not about to go in there. We normally go in all the buildings and explore them, but a lot of these are just caved in, and we can't even go in them. This is a small building.
That's where they were
Of course, the
before,
floor is
right?
all
No.
caved in here too.
Do not step in there. That's rotted wood.
Whoa, it's pretty cool though. There's like massive fireplaces in here.
That's cool. That's really sick,
This
actually.
building is caved in too. Whole front entrance just fell in.
Yo, you guys, we are walking over 1.6 miles. Chris wants to make content for you guys, and there might not be nothing out here.
Barbed wire. Looks like I can't.
But then, as they tried to get under a gap in the fence, they heard something. That's when they knew. Whatever it was chasing them. Listen.
It wasn't my car, it was Dylan.
Make sure you don't get caught on the fence. Holy bro!
That would, you know what? That would also scare the shit out of me.
It's people, it's people, it's people.
Who cares if it's people?
People, it's people.
Dylan, you good?
Hold on, I dropped my phone.
No, you good?
Help me, my phone. My phone. Help me. Where's my phone?
Call it.
I got it.
Holy, let's get out of here, let's get out of here.
Where's your case? God. Boys stress me out.
Wait, let's walk. I ran right over you.
I know.
You guys gotta help me.
No, I was like trying to go. I was trying to go like follow behind.
Let's get one out of here.
Ah, I can't walk.
Yeah. Juan, if we need to run, you gotta go.
No, dude, I can't. I can't run. Like, I actually can't. I can barely walk.
Oh, I didn't.
Dude, it was right behind us.
Bro,
And that wasn't a very bad.
I don't know if you guys heard that, but
Because
that
it was
insane.
one Bigfoot.
Dude, that was one of the most insane.
So I was going like this to Dylan, right? And my foot got stuck in the fence, so I face planted.
Dude, did it hit the fence?
No, I did. Push. I rolled. You rolled?
Now, to me, their reaction seemed completely genuine. You can see the fear on their faces, and they were clearly terrified. That makes me believe they had no idea what was behind them. The scream almost sounded like a growl, but no animal I know makes noises like that, which really makes you wonder what it actually was. Could it have been people trying to prank them?
Probably people.
Possibly. But let's not forget, they were
Bigfoot,
deep in the
eh?
Appalachian area. And this could also be exactly the kind of thing people warn you about when heading there. I honestly don't know what to think, but let me know what you think. Sophie is a girl who lives in a house close to the Appalachian forest, and one night, while she was just outside playing with a ball in her backyard, she started hearing strange noises coming from the woods. At first, she tried to ignore them, thinking it was just an animal, but the sounds kept getting louder and closer. That's when she started to feel uneasy and decided to grab her phone to record, just in case it happened again. And, well, it did. Take a look.
I'm like really paranoid right now. Ew, it smells weird in my mouth.
This is so ominous.
Oh, that just went. Hello?
Girl, fuck the ball, leave.
I'm like... Oh no, I'm out. I'm done. That's it. I'm out. No.
Yeah,
A whispering voice calling her name, Sophie, can be heard
Fuck
in the
that.
video. It's hard to notice at first, but once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Many people in the comments said they heard it too and believe that it could be a mimic, a creature that's said to copy voices, sounds, or even people to lure them in. Now, if you remember the Appalachian sayings, if your name gets called from the dark, no, it didn't. Sophie immediately ran back inside her house and locked the doors. And thankfully, nothing else happened that night. Still, hearing your own name whispered from the darkness, I don't even want to imagine that. Tell me what you think in the comments. And while you're down there, you might as well hit that subscribe button.
No.
We're very close to 100,000 subscribers. There's also a hype button. Each click tells YouTube that this content
wait.
deserves more. Very close to 100,000 subscribers. And thankfully, nothing else happened
Sorry,
that night.
I just want to see something.
Still, hearing your own name whispered from the darkness, I don't even want to imagine that. Tell me what you think in the comments. And while you're down there, you might as well hit that subscribe button. We're very
Okay,
close
did you
to...
see that? When he said subscribe, this glowed. And like it was outlined in red. Like it highlighted. Oh God, I forgot they were doing that. That's funny. I haven't actually seen that do it before.
100,000 subscribers. There's also a hype button. Each click tells YouTube that this content deserves more attention, helping it reach a wider audience. It's free, and you can always change your mind later. This man was hiking somewhere in Maryland on one of the Appalachian trails when things started to get strange. After a while, he began hearing odd noises coming from the woods, behind him, in front of him, and pretty much all around. That uneasy feeling slowly crept in, the kind that makes you realize you're not alone out there. So he pulled out his phone and started recording.
Definitivamente, sí hay algo en estos bosques, ¿eh? La sensación que he venido sintiendo es muy fuerte. Vengo caminando, apagué la cámara. Se oyen ruidos extraños. Es imposible que traiga la cámara prendida todo el tiempo porque pues se me va a acabar la pila y Iba a ser un video demasiado largo, pero sí he sentido.
If you got here, comment the word creature.
No.
Sí he sentido cosas. Una sensación muy extraña realmente. Creo que está peor que el último video que subí.
Not the
grabado
past
allá en
tense,
Chapel
Templeton.
Branch, en Seaford, Delaware. Aquí realmente sí es una sensación totalmente diferente. Me voy a callar tantito para que escuchen el ruido del bosque. Unos 10 segundos.
Is that music what he's saying he's hearing?
It was definitely an unsettling feeling. You can hear these faint, subtle sounds in the background, but nothing too clear at
Crickets?
first. He tried to brush it off and kept walking down the trail, but soon the noises started getting louder and closer.
I don't know what he's talking
That's
about.
when he took out his phone again, hit record, and captured this.
No he sentido así una sensación muy rara, pero algo hay aquí porque nomás de repente es un silencio total. ¿Oyeron? ¿Oyeron? Bueno, espero hayan escuchado, pero les digo sí hay sensación.
The sounds were now much more pronounced, and it was clear that something was close, maybe too close. Whether it was an animal, a person, or something entirely different, it's hard to say. But considering this happened on the Appalachian Trail, I doubt it was anything simple. There's just something about that place. Even in broad daylight, those woods have a way of feeling off. Back in 2009, a group of friends decided to go camping deep in the woods. Just a chill night of fun, drinks, and laughs. They brought a camera along to capture some memories, filming random clips throughout the night. Everything was going great, until at one point, while recording, they noticed something strange moving between the trees. Take a look.
Bailey. Yeah, what's the matter with you, Walt? Come here. Come here. You want a little nutshell, Bailey? Come here. You little creature. No. Hill. What's the matter with you? Tubing. What's the matter with you? Huh?
Yeah, maybe once it gets 10 degrees warmer.
Do some tubing, like 50 out. Down here around this dog pound, we kick it like a bunch of rednecks. Yeah. Drink your Busch Light, smoke your cigarettes. Oh yeah, I owe you like 8 or 9 from last night. I don't know what you say. Like the horseshoe pits out? Yeah, it's like... Yo, you see that? Yo, fellas. Yo, what? Yo, look. Holy shit, dude. Yo, look over there. Dude, what? Yo, what's it? Yo! You see that? Is that it? Hello? Yo, you see that, dude? Look. Yo, get the out of here, dude. Get the out of here. Yo, go.
See?
At first, they thought it was just some random person trying to mess with them, but then
I'll give this footage this. I believe this more than anything else because they're just shooting the shit. One of them notices it. Then, like, you see the thing on camera. And then as soon as they're all like, wait, look at this. Come over here. The thing starts fucking running because it realizes they see him. Like the pace, it doesn't just keep pace. It bolts, which is what an animal would do if it heard sudden movement, like a bunch of people getting up and moving closer, you know?
things got really weird. The figure suddenly dropped down on all fours and bolted into the forest at an unnatural speed. That's when panic kicked in.
I don't even think it dropped down. I think there's trees. I think it stayed running. I think it was just on.
Not even looking back. They
I don't
later
think. I think
uploaded
it was
the
still
footage
running.
to YouTube, and it didn't take long for people to start sharing it around. Theories started in the comments. Some said it was Bigfoot because of how fast it moved. Others claimed it could have been a skinwalker or some kind of cryptid. Of course, there's also the chance that it was all just a prank, but honestly, no one really knows what that thing was. What do you think? Was it something paranormal? Or just someone having a bit too much fun in the woods? Dario and his family decided to spend a few days at a cabin in the Appalachian Mountains, just to relax and unwind.
Mountains.
They had no idea about the stories or strange things that people say happen around that area. One night, while they were all outside enjoying the hot tub, a loud, unsettling noise suddenly echoed from deep in the woods. Confused and a bit freaked out, Dario grabbed his phone and started recording. At first, they didn't really understand what they were hearing. It just sounded too bizarre to be anything normal. But a few days later, after looking more into the history of the place, they learned that strange noises and eerie echoes like the one they heard are actually something the locals talk about often. Now, what you're about to hear in his video isn't background music, and it's not some audio glitch.
Okay.
It's something real, and it's
something
coming
real.
straight from the forest.
We'll be the judge of that.
Yeah, that was a car. That was a car.
Sounds like a malfunctioning alarm.
Who's the aliens, bro?
I think
it's a train.
Could be a train.
But that's just scary.
My skin is crawling.
I'm recording this shit.
To
I do have,
me,
like,
it
weird
kind of
chills.
sounded like a train coming to a stop, too. That screeching metallic tone.
Like
But
a
the strange
malfunctioning
part
alarm.
is, it didn't stop. The sound just kept going, echoing through the forest for way too long to be anything normal. That's when Dario and his family realized something wasn't right and decided to head back inside. Now, what could possibly make a sound like that if not a train? I honestly have no idea. Maybe some strange natural phenomenon. Or maybe not. Either way, they learned one important thing that night. The Appalachian woods after dark are not something to mess with. What do you think it was? And I know a lot of you watching live near or have hiked through those mountains. Have you ever experienced something?
I know a lot of you live here. Not live here, live here. The AI cannot get certain words right. No, it's all right. We're going to wrap up here. I'm going to end it here. I'm going to raid out. So I got to dye my roots and walk the goblin. Let's see. We'll raid Frogan. I think she's playing. I think this is Fortnite. Yeah, this is Fortnite. Have fun. See y'all tomorrow. Bye. No video tomorrow, by the way.